Welcome to EternalJourney, the podcast.
Greetings to all my knights and padawans out there. You are listening to EternalJourney, the podcast that talks about all things eternal with a focus on limited play. I'm your host, Jedi, and this week is episode 71 of the show, where we are going to have a two-part, maybe even three-part show here. We're going to be talking about the new mechanics of Argent Depths, the latest set that is going to be coming out later this month for Eternal. And then we're going to be talking about some Gauntlet speedruns. That's right. So, let me introduce our guest. First, joining me every week, somehow, don't know why he keeps coming back, but coming from the hopefully sunny and fair weather, Alex. What's up, buddy?
Hey, what's up, guys? Good to be here.
Yo.
And then that other great sultry voice is John Holio. What's up, homie?
Hey.
It was funny. It's the one week that you guys don't say what's up and how you guys doing, and I totally have a story to say right now. Of course, that's the way karma would work, or irony.
I like to mix it up. I thought I'd keep it short and sweet since we have a surprise.
Yeah, we do actually. So speaking of speedruns, Mr. World Record Holder himself, I want to welcome back one of our most pristine and prestigious and I don't know what other honorable and heavy-winded guest ever. Enrash1, how you doing, buddy?
What's up? How's it going?
Hey, Nick.
Yeah.
First time repeat guest, Nick Roush. What's up, buddy?
Guess hi.
Hello.
And the enthusiasm, I dig it.
I got a lot of coffee in me right now, so yeah, I'm good to go.
Sweet. Excellent. It's gonna be a good show. All right, well, fine. Since you guys, I'm going to tell my story anyways.
What's your story, Jedi?
Yeah.
Please.
I'm super excited. John, you should have been excited about this anyways, because you were on the same boat. So, long story short, right, they brought back all the tri-faction payoffs, right? The uncommon tri-faction payoffs in this draft format for the update. And I was trapped. I just never drafted Beastmaster, ever. I literally thought I was going to go the entire set without drafting Beastmaster. And it was making me so sad. It was just never open. So finally, yesterday, they were supposed to roll in the new draft format, but there was a delay. And they're like, hey, sorry, technical difficulties. We can't get it up. So you guys are going to have one more day of this. And of course, I streamed. So I was like, all right, fine, we'll draft. And we had one draft that I thought was pretty good Xena deck. I ended up going 2-3 or 1-3 or something like that. And we draft again. And then we pack one, pick one, had honor, display of honor. So I was like, that's it. I like, it's the last draft of the set, whatever, we're gonna force it. So I'm not gonna lie to you. So we first pick display of honor, and then 11th pick get the Beastmaster. I was like, sweet, we're on it, because that's been happening to me this entire draft format. And I'm not gonna lie, we probably should have been in Feln or Menace. I'm not gonna lie, we definitely forced honor. But then pack 2, we picked up the Bloodthirsty Barbarian, Bloodthirsty Berserker, the 4/3 Skycrag Berserker guy, or 4/6, and then I forgot what that is, but the quick draw staff, the +2/+2 quick draw Skycrag staff. So I'm like, that's it, we're doing it, we're jumping in on this.
Like Blood Sun staff.
Yeah, that sounds about right. And then pack 3, pick 1, boom, Hammer Hand. So I was like,
yep.
So I'm like, that's it, we're doing all of it. So sadly, we did not get our second Beastmaster, which made me very sad, because I normally see 2 or 3 Beastmasters in packs to troll me. But yeah, we did it. We put together the honor deck, finally, the last draft of the format. We finally got it. And God, Beastmaster is so rewarding. It was so good. It was just...
Yeah, it was a pleasure to watch, actually. I've been hearing you hype up, or lament your lack of beast mastering, and there you go, rewarded.
I mean, dude, at least the card performed, right? It wasn't unfounded. The card won us like 4 games single-handedly with Overwhelm and a beater and the flyer. It was just, oh god, it felt so good.
Yeah, just in time too, because they took him out of the draft packs today.
Oh, that's sad. I wasn't watching, but I kept hearing him say, This is why Beastmaster is good, guys. If you have a chance to play with it, this is exactly why it's good, right here. So I was like, all right, he's playing Beastmaster. Awesome.
I mean, every
I was
time
happy
it was
for you.
nothing but value. I put the staff on it, and now it's a 7/7 quick draw overwhelm. Oh yeah, and you get a 2/2 flyer. And then
Oh,
another time my opponent,
like that.
Come, my friends.
yeah, and then another time my opponent was like, "Cool, I'll just block with like a 3/3 or something like that." I was like, "Cool, give it double damage, you die." It's just so ridiculous.
It's just a great card.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, all right, here I'll attack with the 5/5, but hold on, let me play my siege provisions to give it endure this turn. Oh yeah, and I get a 2/2. That oh, it was just so good.
It's not just a great card; it's a fun card. Like it's just got it all.
Yeah, it really is. Oh man, but I'm glad. I was like, what a better way to send off the format. I really did. I swear, I thought I was gonna go the entire format without drafting playing a single one of them. But all right, I digress. That is my story. Thank you all for indulging me. I still can't believe the one freaking time I have a story. You guys, neither of you asked me how my week went. You guys suck. What? I swear you guys planned that.
It's like we knew.
All right. Anyways, speaking of streams, you can catch us live at twitch.tv/Jedi_EJ every Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday. For some great draft shenanigans and, you know, the occasional constructed and some cube drafting. We had 9 people cube draft last week, which was very exciting. So maybe this week I'll try to put together a throwback draft of set 2 or 3 for everyone to enjoy. If you can't catch us live, and much like the 7-1 draft that just talked about, I'll be posting that up on the YouTube. So just look up EternalJourney on YouTube. You can catch those great draft videos, some tournament reports. I post all my ECQ runs and things like that, as well as the video version of this show. So you can follow along with us when we go through our pack 1 pick ones and our what's the plays, etc., etc. That's gonna do it for the plugs, which means we're gonna go into our shout out section. That's right. This is where I get to shout out all the great people that support this show, this channel, and me and John and all the other great people. I guess shoot, you too, Nick. Like our groups, our communities are intertwined at this point now. So what's mine is yours, what's yours is mine. I know it was a little over the top, but anywho, all right, shout outs real quick. It's just Minsky coming in with some heavy bit donations this week. Really appreciate that. Thank you so much. I'm working on upgrading the bit donation stuff, so we gotta work it. But of course, Streamlabs isn't the easiest thing for me to work with. For some reason, some things just don't jive as well as I'd like to. But I'm working on upgrading all that stream quality stuff for you guys. Added some emotes, added some additional GIF reactions, and I'm working on some green screen stuff for you guys. Not that I want to be behind a green screen, but just some other stuff to spice up the show a little bit. Welcome to the Jedi Order, the Overmaster. Welcome back, the Jim Joe. Took a long hiatus, and they're back and part of Team EternalJourney. So just wanted to give them a shout out for coming back with a fury. So thank you. It's always great to have friends back. Why I salty for the raid this week. Really do appreciate it. Squid's Krieg coming with the 3 months. So they got their Jedi lightsaber. Fate 87, welcome. Blastoderm Man, welcome to the Jedi Order. One of the DMs, that's so great. We have like 4 or 5 DMs now in Discord. It's great. We're gonna have a giant Eternal/D&D community in the Discord. I'm loving it. So formal, welcome, friend. I'm Meadow B. Coming in, Big Naughtiest 1983. So question, when you guys see people's names that have like a 19 in it, do you automatically think it's their birth year?
It depends on the number.
Assume like either a birth year or like a graduation year, something like that. Something that holds some sort of significance.
Yeah. It's just automatic for me. Every time I see like 19, I just automatically, I'm like, are they older or younger than me? Okay. Are they in the same realm as me instead of me making a plug? Because I'm at the age now where I will quote some things from my childhood or even my early adulthood, and people are like, what's that? I'm like, oh, my bad. Yeah. Try and kill me with the 3 months hitting that sweet lightsaber action. Martholrax. Ooh, there we go. I finally didn't break that up into 2 words. And Titus and Blossom with the 6 months. Jeez, I can't believe he's been watching me for 6 months. Who does that? Anywho, thank you guys so much for supporting the channel and all the things we do, because we really appreciate you. And like I said, we continue to work on things to just be exciting. I already have a couple things lined up for when we hit partner, and that's gonna be kind of cool. I'm super stoked to see what you guys think about that. Hopefully my webcam can handle the stuff I have planned. But yeah, just want to say thank you. But all right, guys, you have something to say? I heard a noise.
Sorry. I think my mic picked some up there.
Oh, okay. No worries. Sweet.
Apologies.
Nah, it's all good. All right. Thanks, guys. You guys rock. You really do. You guys are awesome. It's what makes streaming so much fun is the fact that I just enjoy kicking it with all of you guys. So I'll mention the Discord later on, but yeah, Discord's great. We've been kicking it with people all the time there. Alex, myself, and John kick it there quite a bit. Not here lately just because our schedules have been conflicting, but I mean, I've spent my plenty of weekends just kicking it with you guys. So, but okay, that's gonna do it. Which means we are into our pack 1, pick 1, and we do have the draft preview event for Argent Depths, which means we are going to be seeing the commons and uncommons from the set, in 60 of them, injected into this current quote unquote current draft format. And they are all weighted / boosted, so we will see them more often. Nick, are you ready for some card evaluating, my friend?
Yeah. Brand new format too, so we have nothing to base this off of.
Yep. So with that, I'm gonna go ahead and break down the entire pack because our rare is not too exciting, and pretty much we're gonna talk mainly about the new cards. So I'm just gonna blast through the entire pack, and Nick, you can give us our breakdown. So first up, we have Red Mask Warrior. This is a 4/1 Centaur Warrior for 3 fire. Has Decay. I guess this is awkward too because we haven't talked about the mechanics yet, which we'll be talking about in a minute. But all right, whatever. We'll break it down. I guess try not to go too in depth in the mechanics so we could talk about that in a minute. Didn't think about that. That's all right. It's fine. We're doing it live. Ultimate. When you play a spell with cost 5 or more, gain triple fire influence. Man, Flash Fire is going to be coming back. What? Wormstone. 4 time for a relic. When you play a spell, sacrifice Wormstone to play a 7/7 Sandworm. Towering Arachnid, a 5/2 spider for 2 shadow. Summon, sacrifice a unit to Plunder. Shifting Illusion, 1/1 illusion for 1 primal. Flying, summon, Plunder. Amethyst Waystone, gain shadow, then a shadow influence. Then if you have 4 shadow, Nightfall. Sirocco Elementalist, 2/2 mage for 3 times. Summon, put an enemy unit with flying into its owner's hand. Flameheart Patroller, 1/3 sentinel for 2 fire. Surge, +2 attack this turn. Amethyst Coin, depleted, gain a shadow. Onslaught, deal 1 damage to the enemy player, you gain 1 life. Praxis Vow, it's a power. And for all intents and purposes, I believe it counts as Praxis. Yeah, because it's at the top. So it counts, Praxis power. You may discard a fire or time sigil from your deck to gain an influence of that type and take 1 damage. Trickster Mage, 2/3 mage for 3 time. Warp, cards on the top of your deck cost 1 less. Your units cost 1 less to shift. And Crown Patroller, 2/1 mage for 1 justice, summon, and plunder. And then finally, last one, Incendiary Stalagmite, is a 3/1 Gunardin for 2 fire. Onslaught, secretly choose a card in the enemy player's market. So you can already tell that's not really much of a limited card. The next time they play a card from their market, transform the chosen card into a firebomb. All right, Nick, what are you looking at here, buddy?
There are 2 cards. Well, first, I guess I'll mention this. I think Wormstone was pretty good in the last draft format. So seeing that card stick around, it's a very powerful card. You can kind of build around it, prioritize spells with it. So that's kind of like a known quantity of a good card that we have in this pack.
Mm-hmm.
But there are two other cards that stick out to me. One, the Crown Patroller, and two, the Flameheart Patroller. Both of them use new mechanics and are new cards. So the Crown Patroller, the 2/1 for 1 in a Justice, summon Plunder. I think Plunder is a very, very, very good mechanic. In Limited, being able to trade your sigils into treasure troves so you can continue drawing gas in the late game, or in the early game if you need more power, transforming cards into power to make sure that you're able to curve up, just smoothing out all of your draws. That is a very, very powerful mechanic. The Flameheart Patroller, the 1/3 for 2 with Surge +2 attack this turn, is going to attack as a 3/3 most turns. Like, obviously, you could get some, seats, or I don't know if Evangels are still in the draft format or not, but you can get ways of surging for extra damage, but I think most of the time it's just going to be attacking as a 3/3, and those stats are really good with all of the strangers, 2/3s, 2/2s in this format. A 3/3 on turn 2 essentially is a very, very good attacker, and on the draw, having the 3 toughness allows you to block your opponent's 2/2s and 2/3s and not have to worry about your unit dying. So I think those stats are excellent. My pick, I lean towards the Crown Patroller. I think the Plunder makes it so you're going to have a lot less non-games. It's good at all stages of the game because of the Plunder, late game, early game. The 2/1 stats allow it to trade up with a lot of 2-drops. So I think I would be taking the Crown Patroller here.
Okay, now just to play devil's advocate, the X1, that 1 health doesn't feel like a liability to you, essentially not really being able to stick around very much. You're really valuing the Plunder that much.
Yeah, I really am valuing the Plunder that much, and I want to trade it off with 2-drops about any other chance I get. I don't know how many different 1-cost damage spells are like Var's favors in the format. I don't know if Hot Blood Barbarian is still in for the Temper. But I think the one health, especially on a 1-drop, isn't that much of a liability.
Okay, and considering that Humbug Nest, and I'm assuming Urgent Missive is still in the format and stuff, the Plunder off of the Towering Arachnid is just a little too much for you because it requires you to sacrifice a unit to do it, even though you're still getting a 5/2 for 2.
Well, the thing is, I don't think you can play Towering Arachnid by itself, right? Like, if it's your first play, you have to sacrifice itself.
Yeah, which, I mean, I don't know. I kind of feel like, I think that's fine, because if you need to Plunder that bad, then you're kind of okay doing that. And then later in the game,
you're okay. You're okay just spending a card and getting no value out of it.
I mean,
you're not even adding anything to the board. It's literally just, if you play that on 2 with nothing in play, all you're doing is binning a card. You're discarding a card to change one of the other cards in your hand. You're not drawing a card and changing it. Like, that is
pretty bad.
Serious card disadvantage.
Fair, good point.
But a few turns in, if you're that desperate.
No, that makes sense. Anyway, that makes sense. All right, John, since we're chiming in, where are you at in this pack?
Sure. Yeah, I think Nick's pretty on point with the evaluation. Like, as far as the new cards, I would also probably be looking between the Patroller and I guess they're both Patrollers. The Crown Patroller and the Flameheart Patroller. Like, those both seem like pretty good new cards, like new commons and uncommons for the draft format. Like, the Crown Patroller, I would really want to be in an aggressive Justice deck of some sort. And I mean, really, they're both kind of aggressive looking cards to me. But, like, I mean, call me lame or anything you want. I'm actually thinking about picking this Wormstone here, to be honest.
Oh, you stole my thunder.
Yeah.
I knew Alex.
Time, I think it's still going to be really good in this, this week. And, like, I think, if you want to be in any other color, Time is still like the fixing faction, and I don't know. It's just a lame old Wormstone for me here.
Hey man, if you want the W, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And I knew Alex. Alex, go ahead.
Well, I mean, Nick said it. He's like, that's the known good like that's the card that we
Exactly.
know is good in this pack, like without having tested any other cards. And yeah, I would play it safe and take that first. Not that the other cards aren't good, but just I like building around Wormstone. It's like I do that a lot. So
Mm-hmm.
Well, actually, I was gonna say Mr. Five Color, but I guess Nick goes pretty deep into five colors as well. So I'll ask you both this. We'll send it back for Nick. How where are you placing the vows in this format as far as fixing goes, Nick? Are like where are you at in prioritizing them?
I think they're pretty good. I think you're definitely not playing them unless you're in both of their colors, right? Like it's not like a token, where you can play a token if you're only in two of them. I'm they're pretty good. I think in limited they're worse than seats, which are also in this pack. They do come into play non-depleted. You can choose not to discard a card or to discard a power from your deck and just have them be colorless power if you need that late game. Their value goes up the more 1-drops and 2-drops that you have. But the best 2-drops or some of the best 2-drops in this format are going to be your strangers, which don't require any influence. So I think that brings the vows down a little bit. I would take them if I'm already in that 2-color combination. But don't think I'm picking them over a top quality common or uncommon, anything like that.
Okay, makes sense. Alex, anything to add to that?
I like them. I think the cost of it costing you a sigil from your deck is like an unknown negative at this point for me. Like, because you don't want to do that too many times, and because I mean, you might then cap your power and not be able to hit your top end. It seems like
There's a tension there for sure, right? Like you'd, or generally speaking, earlier in the game, you're gonna want that influence, but you're gonna be wary about discarding that random power from your deck. It could be the one on top,
But then I
that
didn't
you
realize
need.
what Nick had said, that you could play it and not get not like
Right. It's you may. So yeah, it can just come
Yeah.
in as a colorless, just a undepleted power.
So yeah, it's very interesting. I like it. I mean, I'm excited to play with it and try it for sure.
Especially when a lot of drafters typically err on the side of less power versus more. Unlike people like Nick and I, where I'm like,
Oh gosh,
give me an excuse to play 19 power, and I will.
Yeah, give me more power. You can't win the game if you can't cast your spells. Like give me more power.
Yeah.
No, I think the
I'm on the
vows
other end of
overall.
that.
No, I think the vows overall are pretty good, and like I said, their value definitely goes up the more 1-drops and 2-drops, and to a lesser extent 3-drops you have in your deck, because it does fix your influence, getting a choice there. So while I think they'll be better in some decks than others.
Mm-hmm.
And then just like a side little note on this towering arachnid, you don't like when you summon it, it's just a 5/2 for 2, right?
If it's the only creature in play for you, you have to sacrifice. It like sacrifices itself no matter what, because it's not a May.
So you do have to do that. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
okay.
It won't let you sacrifice opposing units, Alex.
I thought it was like
No, I'm just kidding.
like summon, sacrifice a unit to plunder, and like you get that as a bonus. But no, it just kills itself.
I wonder if in the set there's going to be some synergies with that 5 attack. You know what I mean? Like we saw in this format where it's, hey, get X, where X is equal to the highest attack or highest health in your void or whatever. So I wonder
it's
if that
kind of interesting. Like,
there is.
Is there? Oh yeah. In Shadow,
there's some synergies with it. There's like the there's the Shadow 1/3 flyer, or not. It's not a flyer, but the 1/3 with Decay.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
That gets attack equal to the highest attack among your other units. So you can attack as a 5/3 for 3 if you have that in play. There is I think it's a fire uncommon that gives all of your units with 5 or more attack double damage.
Oh,
Yeah, it's like a 2/2 for 3 with that ability, and then it has some surge ability that pumps its power or pumps its attack. So there's definitely a theme with 5 cost spells and 5 attack or higher units.
nice.
Cool.
All right, cool. Well, that was our pack one pick one. Quite insightful. Super excited um, to play this intermediate format. And I guess real quick before we jump into the mechanics, real quick, just to talk a little bit about game economy and whatnot. Nick, you and I were talking about that a little bit ahead of time before the show and stuff, but you jammed your drafts and you're already having a full play set because you want to start brewing for constructed. How do you like? I personally wish that they did a little more, injected some more cards into the preview events. Rather than just the commons and uncommons. I would like to see some rares and stuff there. Where are you at on it? Like, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, it would be nice to see more rares. When I was doing the drafts, I saw a lot of different rares. With this one specifically, like Stranger Synergies were there. I think most of the merchants were there as well. At least I kept seeing single colored ones. So, we Direwolf doesn't want to overload us with all of the new cards, right? Because then you lose out on that hype when you're opening the packs, and you lose some of that hype of spoiler season. So the commons and uncommons that you get to draft is like a really nice little taste. And if you get those cards, you can start getting the brewing juices flowing. It would be nice to see more of the cards during these preview events. But I understand that's a delicate balance. They don't want to go super overboard with it.
Yeah, I think for people that enjoy drafting, this is perfect because it's going to change up the format enough where we're gonna have a good time. I guess I was just trying to encompass even the kind of intermittent drafters, the people, the free to play people, and the people that like drafting but they're not super involved, because a lot of them are just going to wait the 2 weeks till, or the week or 2 weeks until the set actually drops. That way they're getting max value on their draft tickets. You know what I mean? So it's going to be kind of just the top drafters drafting against each other, I guess. But I think you're right. You bring up a good point. It's kind of like darned if you do, darned if you don't, right? Not everyone's going to be happy about it, but I do appreciate that they at least do that. And then they do the constructed pre-release event that we'll talk about here later on in the constructed corner. But okay, so with that, let's go ahead and jump into breaking down the mechanics. We're doing this because tentatively I expect next week we should have the full set spoilers, and we could start doing our marathon set reviews. So I would like to get you guys the stats on this episode as well, but obviously we don't have it because they're not all spoiled yet. So we're just going to start breaking down the mechanics at least to get you ahead on that, so we could save some time during the set reviews. So first up we have Imbue. This is the one that was actually released today, so you guys are pseudo getting first shot crack at it. Let me go ahead and read the Direwolf article on it, and then we'll start breaking it down. Once again, starting with you, Nick, because you're a guest, so guest first. We have Imbue. When you play a unit with Imbue, you may stun one of your other units and keep it stunned. As long as it's stunned, this unit gets its strength and health. So, for example, they have here the Mandrake Shambler is a 4/1 with Imbue. Mandrake Shambler can't block. Let me read what they wrote anyways. So, Imbue allows one of your units to absorb the might of another. So let's say we have a 2/3 Foothills Alpha, which is just a vanilla 2/3. When we play our Mandrake Shambler, if we want, we can stun that wolf and gain its +2/+3, bringing our Mandrake up to a 6/4. It still retains all of its stats, so it still can block and has Imbue. Imbue is always optional, and you only get the choice at the time you play the Imbue unit. If we do choose to Imbue, the unit will remain stunned as long as both remain in play. Make a note of that, both. If our Mandrake Shambler dies or is silenced, the Imbue breaks and our Foothills Alpha immediately unstuns and is ready to attack or block. If the Foothills Alpha stops being stunned, like say it dies, then our Mandrake Shambler loses the borrowed stat and goes back to a 4/1. Time to catch. All right, and then another example they have is a Cloud Snake Mount. This is a 0/2 for 1 primal, flying and imbue. K6 and exhaust Cloud Snake Mount to deal 2 damage to an enemy. So essentially, if once again using the example from earlier, if you stun the Foothills Alpha, then your Cloud Snake would now be a 2/5 flyer. Nick, what do you think about this?
Having to keep the unit stunned is a pretty big drawback. Like you're losing out on board presence. Yeah, you're gaining the stats, but you're like losing a card in a sort of way. I think this is going to have a lot more effect in limited, right? Because you can have these board stalls where you have all these 2/2s and 1/3s and 1/4s and stuff like that, just kind of staring at each other. And this is a way to turn one of those units that's not doing anything into more stats on a bigger unit to hopefully try and break through. I think in particular flyers with the imbue ability is going to be very good because one, it forces your, like, it's just going to be more stats that you're attacking your opponent with. And once they deal with it, you're going to get your unit back. So I think this is going to have a pretty big implication in limited play. Not so much constructed, because you need to get the full value out of every single one of your cards in constructed.
And just double check. Let me make sure something. Stun as long as it's strength. Yeah, okay. So it doesn't say anything about abilities either. So it doesn't transfer over deadly or anything like that. Much like
No, I mean, but there could be like cards that we haven't seen yet that
that say that. Yeah, if this card, yeah, fair. I could believe that. One thing to consider, which I'm pretty sure it works this way, but let me get your guys' opinion. So it says for as long as it stays stunned. So is it safe to assume that, for example, if you play Hourglass on your side, you're going to negate your imbue target and you can't imbue an endurance unit?
Yeah, you won't be able to imbue at all at that point.
Yeah. So there's a nombo.
I have a question too.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, like what happens if you're attacking with a unit that you've imbued and then they like, torch, well, not torch because it's not fast anymore, but sear your, dork that you've stunned. And like, is your guy still attacking and suddenly has smaller stats and then you get kind of wrecked?
Yeah, I think that's exactly how it works.
Oof. Yeah. This reminds me of like kind of, it's like a reverse kind of bestow mechanic from Theros, from an older Magic set.
I think it's exactly the way that Nick mentioned, where you're going to use it. I'm sure they're going to have some smaller things that you can use early, kind of play that monk role, you know what I mean, where you have a 2 or 3 drop that you can kind of get in a little bit more because it gets the stat boost. But I think more often than not, you're just going to essentially imbue off of your units that aren't really doing anything on a unit with a keyword or a battle skill that matters, and to potentially get in there. Alex, if you're up against someone that has imbue target, are you looking, and granted, I know this is contextual, so please just kind of give me the broad strokes answer, but are you looking to remove the imbue enabler or the imbue target? You know what I mean? Like, for example, if let's go back to the Cloud Snake, right? If they have the 7/7 Sandworm in play and they imbue it on the mount imbue, the Cloud Snake imbues it. So now the Cloud Snake is a 7/9 flyer. Are you gonna try to take out the Cloud Snake, or are you just gonna take out the Wormstone?
Well, I guess it depends on the removal that you have or whatever. But
right, in that scenario, that's a nightmare. Whichever one I can kill.
Yeah, you're like,
if I can kill both,
I can like take the flying away and then chump away my life, or I can kill the big unit. I mean, in that case, I think you kill the big flyer. But it's like, it depends on the situation that you're in. Mostly, I think you're gonna want to kill the unit that's giving the stats if that's allowing the unit to like break through and attack, But if it's it might be a smaller unit that is like, for like Wretched Raven, your favorite card, maybe I just take that one out because that's making me discard cards, like
Hmm.
instead of. I guess it just depends.
Yeah, you're still just looking for the bigger threat, right? Like in the case of the Shambler, you don't care about the 2/3 wolf, so you just take out the Shambler.
I
Yeah,
think
exactly.
best case scenario is something like a permafrost where you just lock down both
Ooh,
units
yeah, very good
for
point.
one power.
Yeah, and
No,
that could completely be a thing. Like depending on how they put the removal in this format, you might be right,
Yeah.
John, because then Nick did mention that you're kind of going down a card virtually or whatnot because you're playing a card but losing one as well.
I don't know if permafrost is in this week's format. I haven't actually checked, but
Yeah,
it's an expedition, right? So
yeah.
now I didn't see any Imbue cards. I only did one draft, but I did see a lot of cards, or not a lot, at least two that said if something is stunned, then this gets a bonus. I was like, what is that? That was weird. So I mean, Imbue kind of has something to do with that, right? If there's going to be
Yeah,
a lot
there's a 0/3 for 1 that gets +2 attack if something is stunned. So, and it does.
that's anything like yours or opponents, right?
Yes.
Okay. So that's interesting to go with cards like that, if you're going to get other cards buffed because of your imbuing,
Mhm. Yeah. So man, this is kind of interesting too because, like, for example, the Mandrake Shambler can stand a little bit better on its own just because it has some stats that are relevant versus the Cloud Snake. You 100% want to imbue this guy because the 0/2 for 1 doesn't really do much. Yes, does. I will admit it does have the. I mean, I guess it has that insurance policy of the pay 6. We'll evaluate that in the set review, but I mean, the Cloud Snake's more powerful because it's a flying unit, so it has evasion versus Shambler not being able to block. I think is a huge liability, but the Shambler also is still a 4/1 by itself versus the Cloud Snake is just an 0/2. So I don't know. It's gonna be interesting. I think these are probably, and granted, these are commons and uncommons. So the rare and maybe some other uncommons are a little more powerful. But I think you're gonna wanna. It's gonna be like situational when you want to pick these up in your draft because I could see the benefit to the Cloud Snake, but at the same time, I mean, what you want to imbue the biggest unit you can or stun the biggest unit you can to make this a bigger flyer, but at the same time you're losing those stats as well. I don't know. I'm already wrapping my head around theory crafting and I have like a million scenarios. It's like I'm okay losing, a 3/3 on the board, but then this guy's only a 3/5 flyer when I have something like a 5/5 or to make this yeah, whatever. Never mind. I'm going down the rabbit hole. We're gonna move on because I'm gonna go cross-eyed.
you're spiraling out of control, Jedi.
Yeah.
Yeah, that point is you've got a lot of options, and when you have these imbue cards with various board states, you're like trying to evaluate that on the fly or giving yourself multiple options is more opportunities to kind of outplay your opponent, but also more opportunities to screw up and make the wrong decision. Like there's a lot of options and a lot of agency that you have when these imbue situations are going to come up and limited.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That sounds fun.
Yeah.
I like decision points. Yeah,
Me
that's
too.
good.
Yeah, that's what makes limited so much fun, for sure. Okay, so that's gonna cover Imbue. Let's go ahead and dive into our next one, which you're really high on this one. I'm enjoying it, the theory of it so far. It's gonna be interesting how these cards play out because obviously we're only getting spoiled a handful of cards. And like we just mentioned, there's so many different ways that Dire Wolf can incorporate these mechanics on non-keyworded or battle skilled words as well, much like what you saw where there's a card that doesn't have Imbue anywhere on it, but it interacts with the stun effect from Imbue. So this next one is Surge. Surge is a new ability that means when you gain influence, something happens. In the case of a Flame Heart Patroller, which we talked about earlier, it means +2 attack for the turn. So when we play another Fire Sigil, we're attacking with a 3/3. But what if we play a Praxis Banner, i.e. 2 influence? Since we gain 2 influence, a time and a fire, Flame Heart Patroller powers up to a 5/3. Let's see. Next, so they're not only just stats though. Next up, we have like Emerald Crafter, where it's Surge ability. So every time you play an influence, increase Emerald Crafter's Entomb by +1. So permanently, every single time you gain an influence, This guy is going to go the Entomb. It's going to remain a 3/3, but it's Entomb, which is play an Emerald Incarnation, which is similar to what you get off of Svetya's Sanctum. So it'll be a 1/1. Then you play an Influence. It'll be a 2/2 whenever she dies. You play a Banner. It'll get 3/3 or a 4/4 based on how you're following it. So that's extremely powerful. And then because of that, they've added cards in this format that are going to gain you influence, kind of like what the Evangels did. For example, they have a Badge of Honor, which is a +3/+1 weapon. When the wielder attacks, gain a Justice influence. So things that add additional influence is going to go up in value in this format. Let's start with you, Alex. What do you think about Imbue or Surge? I'm sorry, Surge.
Well, it seems like you're getting a bonus out of your card for anytime you just play a power. Basically, anytime you're playing a power that isn't factionless, you're gonna get a trigger, right? So if you're like getting more justice, or if you're getting a different color, or if you're getting multiple colors at once. So I like mechanics that just work for play. It's like landfall kind of from Magic. It's like, hey,
Or
I get
power from Eternal, even.
but right, you get something just from playing a power. So it's something you do every game. I kind of like it.
Yeah, you're getting rewarded for not even enabling your game plan, just playing the game.
Just exactly.
I do like how it adds, once again, another decision point where now, instead of just firing off your power as soon as you can, or there's a little more incentives to potentially sandbag a specific power, especially if it's 2 power or something, 2 influence, like an example of the Banner, to potentially use it not as a combat trick, but a buff spell later on in the game based on a board state instead of just firing off all your power. Another thing to consider is the traditional strangers, the fixing ones. Now, if you draw them a little bit later, you can pick and choose when to play them to get that kind of a buff. There's also sequencing, right? If you have multiple 2-drops, normally you just drop that stranger as quickly as possible so you can make sure you have all your influence here. There might be a consideration to keep it till later so you get max value. Of course, one of the cards that comes into play, which I don't know if they're leaving the format or not, I'm assuming they are, is Carve It. Carve It works a little weird though, because of the fact that, I say that in the form of Patroller, because Patroller, you want the Surge trigger pre-combat, but for Emerald Crafter, you're okay just getting the influence whenever. So something like Carve It, that every time at the end of turn it gives you 3 influence, could be extremely powerful, which, I guess you're expecting that from a legendary. Nick, what do you think?
Yeah, echoing a lot of what you said. You're going to have a lot more sequencing decisions to make, because normally you would just fire off your double influence power like right away, your insignias and stuff, but now that you're more incentivized to hold on to them, so power bases might be constructed a little bit differently. It also raises the value of other things that give you influence, like Evangels or Strangers. You might see those pop up a little bit more constructed play. I don't want to get too heavy on like specific card evaluations, but Surge definitely changes the way that you're going to think about power bases. And probably even more so in a format like Expedition, where you're going to have a limited card pool. Those cards are going to gain even more value with a smaller card pool. So the less of those that you have, the more you're going to want to play those cards.
The neat thing too, as well, is I think it kind of gives a little more interaction to monocolor decks as well. If we're gonna dab and construct it as well, just because typically in those monocolor decks, for the most part, I don't know, it just gives you more interaction. John, let me ask you something. Because if you have let's say you have the critical mass of Surge in your deck, right? I don't know what that number is, but let's just say you do. You consider yourself a Surge deck. Where are you valuing potentially off-color banners and seats and things and strangers? For example, obviously in the current format, or not the current format, but the previous format, we were still taking tokens that give you essentially one of 3 different factions if you were only in 2 of those factions.
Sure.
If you're in, let's say, Huru, and you see an Argentport banner, so you're really only needing the Justice influence off of that banner, are you potentially higher on putting it into your deck or lower, and just, obviously treating it as a Justice sigil because you don't need the
Yeah,
where are you at?
I think there was like no chance that it would have made my deck without Surge in the format. But now I think there's a pretty high chance, as long as the faction other card faction requirements in my deck aren't so restrictive that I'm gonna just be completely ruining my my deck's chances overall to do this. It seems like there's like I've already seen people drafting and playing mono faction decks this week in this week's format. So especially if I'm base the one color that power has, like I'm definitely gonna pick those up for a surge deck. Wow, yeah, that's a fun way to make use of powers that you would never actually put in your deck normally.
Okay.
One thing I like about the look of this mechanic, like it's very similar to Empower, except like I don't know how you guys felt about Empower, right? But like it was a little awkward, and like there's a lot less ways to enable it, especially other than just playing your power for the turn, right? Like this seems like similar in all the good ways, and then like it just leaves so much more space for the developers to like let you make use of it, because all you're getting is influence, which I think is they're more willing to like just tack influence onto cards than giving you a free power, right? Everyone thought Grodov Stranger was extremely powerful, the first time they play it, because like it's like as soon as you play it, it makes a power that you can play more and more. Like those kinds of cards are pretty few and far between, right? Like I think there's going to be a lot more opportunities to make use of the surge mechanic than Power, for sure. And it seems like one thing about Empower was like some of the cards were it's like they put so much emphasis on the Empower trigger that the cards themselves were so kind of bad that especially even in limited, you were just kind of sad playing them, and then if you miss your land drops for the turn, you're extra sad. These these comments we're looking at here seem reasonably statted, like they just seem like okay units already, so I like that direction with this mechanic a lot.
Nice. Well put, my friend. All right, that is Surge. Let's go into our next 2.5, I guess. Next one up is Plunder, and this is, we talked about a little bit in our Pack 1 Pick 1. This is kind of much like what Enroush said. It's a way to avoid, or I guess, non-game insurance, which I'm all for. Those are normally the games I'm kind of okay letting go mentally and emotionally, but it's still unfortunate whenever you have a non-game, especially when you're playing against friends or in a tournament. So, Plunder. When you plunder, you may choose a card in your hand to transform. If the card you choose was power, it becomes a treasure trove. Treasure trove is pay 2 power, and it's a spell, pay 2 power, and draw a card. If the card you chose was not power, it becomes a sigil of its factions. If you plunder a multi-faction non-power card, it has an equal chance of transforming into a sigil of each of its factions. Factionless cards will transform into a sigil of your starting deck's factions, again at equal chance. Shifting illusion packs a lot of value. All right. Oh yeah. Shifting illusion packs a lot of value into a 1-cost unit. Sorry. My bad. I was trying to see if they had any additional things, but this is just the breakdown of it. And we just talked about Shifting Illusion is the 1/1 flyer. Summon, you can plunder. So since you were starting, you talked a little bit more about it in the Pack 1 Pick 1. Let's go ahead and elaborate on that. And Roush, what do you think of Plunder?
I think it's absolutely busted. Like, I think it's one of, if not the best ability that we've seen in the game. It's absolutely insane that this ability exists.
So do you think it's just that overpowered, or do you just because of the ability to just make sure your deck either hits your power to play your gas or have gas?
Both. I think so like by itself, let's look at a card like Seek Power, right? So Seek Power essentially lets you trade itself for a sigil, right? You're transforming itself. You're this might be a little bit of a stretch, but Seek Power is plundering itself into a power, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now imagine if Seek Power also had the ability to change power cards into treasure troves, right? So like it can also just give you gas in the late game. So a lot of these one cost plunder cards, they're basically like you can kind of treat them as like your Seek Power to help you smooth out your draws without having to run Seek Power. And you also get this unit in play that does something, whether it's trading, whether it's attacking. Um, the Plunder ability has this incredible synergy with cards that have Echo or Fate like Zoe, where you have this half of a card that you're not planning on really using and getting to turn it into something else. Like, I think this ability is just absolutely absurd. I mean, in limited, it's going to smooth out your draws, and I think it's definitely a powerful ability there in making it so you don't have non games. But once you start looking at constructed and what this does, I'm surprised that this ability has seen the light of day.
Wow.
I mean, do you think
That's yeah, no, I agree.
so, John? How where are you gonna value plunder? Like, are you just gonna try to pick up as much plunder as you can, or because I mean, it does come at a cost. It is gonna clean up your draws for sure, one way or the other. But much like, for example, I think in general that the EJ crew, we're pretty low on 1/1s for one, regardless of what they may have. Even the deadly, which is kind of the biggest, most impressive battle skill for most 1/1s because it allows them to try to trade up. For example, going back to Shifting Illusion, I mean, it is costing you a unit slot in your deck, and it is just a non-impactful 1/1. I mean, all things aside, right? You can have weapons to buff it, etc., etc. But
Sure.
so I mean, where are you at? You're just not slamming every single plunder card you can, are you? Or what do you think?
No. No, like no. I don't in limited, I don't think it's that busted. Like there's I mean, there's all that, like everything in limited, there's like caveats across the board, but I mean, a 1/1 flyer for one, that's a playable card in limited. Like this has like one of the best abilities on a 1/1 flyer we've seen, I think. I mean, I would, if I started drafting a few of these, I would want to play, I would want to be in like a Elysian Skies deck or something, and I would in that case play as many of these as I get my hands on, pretty much. Like to some extent, like at some point you're gonna have to have ways to close out the game and things like that. But I mean, yeah, in a deck like that, I'd probably play quite a bit of these kind of cards actually. But no, at some point unless you're able to take advantage of just the extra bodies or something else, you're not going to be able to win a game just with an army of 1/1 flyers.
Yeah, it looks like from at least the preview cards that they're showing in this article that they're all low cost units, which I think is correct. I mean, obviously, the power of them comes from the ability to, if you're missing power, let's say you keep, we talk about things like Vara's favor, Roland's favor, Seek power, that the shuffler does not count as power, so you have a higher chance of hitting those extra power plays when you redraw. This is essentially the same thing. It's kind of like Pledge, right? Where these units are going to be cheap. If you have a 2-power hand plus a plunder unit, you feel a little more comfortable like keeping it. So, so they're going to be slightly less impactful in the late game, but of course they can turn that additional power that you don't need into gas. That being go ahead. Oh, sorry. That being said, Alex, now we just talked about I just talked about it. Well, Surge, where we wanted to sandbag our power to use as utility cards later on, right? Buffing up those Surge cards. Well, now we have a card that essentially incentivizes us to hold on that power to cash in later. But how do you feel about that tension between those two mechanics?
It lets you get a power for later if you need it for the surge. It kind of synergizes with that. If you don't have your surge guys out, then you can like draw more gas, you know. So I think it synergizes pretty good with the surge.
Okay, all right. So yeah, so you figure if you have a surge that's worth playing, then you can swap a potential like a 2/2 or something like that for a power then instead.
Potentially, if you really need that surge trigger. I kind of like that they put it on what would normally would be underwhelming bodies, because if you put this on good cards, like just tack on, if you're just gonna tack on Plunder onto anything, that could get a little wacky. So let's see what Plunder is written on when all these cards come out. You know,
Yeah, we haven't seen the legendaries yet that could potentially have it.
exactly, or the rares that are just like, you know, three
There's
three for
one
30
rare here.
and
Straight up
Plunder.
Chandra is her name.
It is, yeah. Someone put a meme. Was it in our Discord or was it on the Reddit where it
I
was
think
Yu-Gi-Oh plus Chandra?
yeah, it so looked like Chandra, the red card. Yeah,
I
I,
mean, I mean that.
I mean, it's even called Firebrand. What?
I mean
yeah.
that being said, though, when you think about a fire sorcerer, it's pretty hard to not picture a female with red hair, right? The whole Phoenix thing, like that.
Fair
It's
enough.
kind of a known quantity. Yeah, I don't know. I think there's just so many.
That magic
This
has it.
is a straight up nod, though, right?
Yeah, it is just like a nod to that. It's got to be.
I'm alright with that. I'm still alright with that.
Me too.
I'm not worried about it. Nick, do you have anything to add before we move on from Plunder?
No, just like I think most of the bodies that Plunder is on are reasonable bodies, and I don't think you're really seeing it on other than like the 5/2 that you have to sacrifice something, and even then there's synergies with that. As long as you have a body left over on the Plunder, I think they're all great, and I think in limited, like I would probably play every single one, no questions asked, except for the 5/2. And even then, like who knows if if there's enough synergies for the 5/2, that still might be insane.
Mm-hmm.
I had a recent shadow deck where the highest I could get my what's the shadow invoke? Sorry, I'm having a brain fart, but like the highest I could get my my minus on that was 3. You know, it'll help that card be a lot better for sure in limited. Um, you know, I heard an interesting take on this mechanic
Pack
earlier
Conjuring.
today from one of your prior guests, E Moneybags Eric. Was doing some drafting earlier, and he said that he did not like this mechanic at all. And he's a top drafter, and so his reasoning is this like this mechanic is going to make it's not going to like necessarily lower his win percentage, but he's going to have to fight now for so many more games that were just free wins where he could just run over people because they missed their third power drop or whatever. Like this is going to just make so many more games into games as opposed to non-games in limited in general. It's going to be huge.
That's
Doesn't
why I
that work
like it
both
though.
ways though?
Yeah,
Because he won't lose as many games,
That's
due to
yeah.
his own power
I
screw.
think that I think I just think he he's thinking it's gonna help all these like it's gonna it's not gonna punish bad deck building as hard as the game did normally, I guess. And so I think it's gonna level the playing field a bit. Maybe I don't know. That was his take. He did not like the mechanic because I think I'm gonna like it because I mean I don't like playing non games and I don't I yeah I mean you win when your opponent's not doing anything either, but that's not fun though. I mean I think we all like to draft for fun too, right? Like for the most part here anyway. I mean, we like to win, don't get me wrong.
Yep. No, I agree. I agree. It does kind of make deck building a little more forgiving, but I think I'm okay with that. A lot of people find draft already a little intimidating, so if we could do stuff
Right?
to kind of balance that out and get more people into the draft queues, I'm pretty happy with that. Honestly, I think overall, we yeah, sure, we'll take the free win so we can get more wins in draft again. But more often than not, you remember the close games that you win by one, or there was a back and forth, or you both kind of raced to mill your opponent, etc. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think there's also a thing to be said about knowing when to plunder, because they're going to have a percentage of opening hands with a 1-drop card with plunder where it's not correct to plunder any card in your opening hand, and
That's a great point.
you're just supposed to wait until the end of the game. So again, it's giving you more decision points throughout the game, where you as a good player can capitalize on those decision points, and so, you know, if you're playing against someone else who is either a new player, not quite as good, or not recognizing those decision points, who are just going to plunder on turn one no matter what, you know, that gives you more opportunities to make correct plays and outplay them.
That is such a good counterpoint. I like that completely. Like, I'm gonna talk to Eric and see if I can convince him with that one, because I agree. Like, yeah, like anytime you give players a choice, like you're giving them an opportunity to choose wrong. So, and I mean, I don't know how many times you guys are probably with me on this. How many times I've seen players decimate on 3 and go back to 2 power and then never do anything the rest of the game.
mm-hmm.
Like, this could end up punishing people in that way. So
Yep, we saw that with pledge as well. Whether to pledge or not, it wasn't always automatic.
right, yeah, that's like a little different though, but yeah, it is similar.
All right, let's move on to the next one. This one's a returning mechanic. I'm just going down the article. So, revenge is back. So for those of you that are new, revenge can be slapped onto anything thanks to the touches. And correct me if I'm wrong, but revenge, regardless of what you have it on, if it's a unit, a spell, whatnot, when the whatever card would go to your void, it touches your void, and then it is shuffled back into your library or your deck. But it's from the top 10 cards, right? If I remember, hold on.
Yeah, it goes to your void first. So like if you have, like Gavel, for example, always shut revenge cards down because they just go to the void and they have void bound and don't come back and go into your deck.
Okay, here we go. Yeah, there we go. It is the top 10. So it'll get shuffled back into randomly in the top 10 cards of your deck. So it could be the very next card, or it could be 10 down and anywhere in between. And the card will gain Destiny. What Destiny means is when you would draw the card, whether it's off of a treasure trove or just naturally or whatnot, instead, it would go directly into, it would either get played right away if it's a spell or weapon, or it will go directly to the battlefield if it's a unit, and then you'll get to draw an additional card. Yeah, I mean, it's a great mechanic. Sometimes it's really busted when you can get it on a unit and you get it immediately back. Sometimes it's a little random. For example, I like Victor's Cry, which is a +5/+5. Getting that sometimes doesn't quite suit your fancy. If it does it, you can't control the timing of it. But overall, anytime you can get 2 cards off of 1 actual card in your deck, it's card advantage. So I like it. I think it's a solid mechanic, and I mean, you can't go wrong with it, right? Cards only get better with revenge in them. I mean, the only drawback, I guess, is if you're trying to dig for a specific card in your deck, it adds another card to the deck, but yeah.
It draws a card when you draw.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
That
so
doesn't really...
Yeah, so it doesn't even do that. Yeah, never mind. Nick, do you have anything to add?
So one of the things with all these revenge cards that have been spoiled, and the ones that are available in the draft packs right now, they're all on spells, which I think is really interesting, because if you have revenge on a unit, once it gains Destiny and comes right into play, it's always going to hit play, right? Like, it's never going to be a bad thing. But on these kind of utility spells or pump spells or things like that, there's a chance that when you Destiny it, it's not going to be very good. And I think that's a really, really interesting design choice on these cards with revenge. Mobilization, the one that's in the article, that's going to be great because that's just putting units into play. But let's say like the one with killer, there's a 3-drop with revenge that gives one of your units killers. It's entirely possible that when you Destiny it, you don't have a unit in play, and it could just miss. So I think
True.
that's a really interesting design choice, and I think that's going to be something that a lot of people miss when evaluating these cards for limited
Uh,
and constructed, for that matter.
yeah, you're totally right. And it's one of those things where typically we're okay paying 1 or 2 for killer, but paying 3 for a single killer activation is pretty medium to low. So that is interesting. The one thing I will say just on that card specifically is that you can give a card that already has killer again. So just keep that in mind for any of our newer players or whatnot. I do think you're right though. The unit will always just be a unit comes into play. The fact that some of these cards, like for example in this article, they have a shared vision is a legendary. This is a slow spell for 3. Of note, Destiny will trigger whenever you draw it. So should you, for example, have Wisdom of the Elders and you can draw cards at fast speed, it will still play that spell at, even if it's a slow spell, it will play it when you draw it. So you could roundabout way make it, obviously you don't know when you're going to draw it, etc., whatever. I digress. Okay, so Revenge, exhaust 2 of your units to give the top card of your deck Destiny. So of course, giving the top card of your deck Destiny means that it will play it for free, and it says top card. So it could be a unit, relic weapon, etc. But
Sight.
yeah, oh man, that would be nice. Yeah, good point. The one flip, and you can give sigils Destiny too, right?
Yep.
So
Unlucky.
Yeah. The one thing to consider is the fact that it says you have to exhaust 2 units to give the top card of your deck Destiny. So there's a chance that Shared Vision, if the Revenge triggers and you only have 1 unit play or no units, you can't exhaust the 2, and so the effect will fizzle. So much to like what Enrush was saying, just the fact that sometimes these cards can come into play and it doesn't do a thing. Just keep that in mind, I guess.
Yeah, I like what Nick was saying. Like, they're thinking about Revenge in a different way now. After I think they were kind of testing the waters a little bit with the touch, and in the last set, and I think they were happy with the results because now they've added Revenge in all of the factions, and like you can see in the design here, like on this other card in the article here, Forget, for example, like it only happens to an enemy unit, right? So there's no like downside there that you're going to silence your only unit in play or whatever, anything like that. And so but like you were saying, Jedi, like the downside on this card in particular is that it's a fast speed silence the first time you play it, and then that second time you have no control over when it comes out. But at least you're not going to silence your own guy. Like, so they've definitely put some thought into this new usage of Revenge. I'm excited to try it out.
Okay, moving on. This is not a new mechanic, but this is a cycle, so we might as well talk about it because it does have some implications in Limited, and I actually think this variant is actually probably a little more relevant than the previous cycle of bargains. These are etchings. So we have Time, Fire, Justice, Shadow, and Primal etchings. Etchings are a cycle of new market cards in Argent Depths. For only 1 power, we can get we can get an X sigil out of our deck, but once we have some the influence of the respected colors, so 4 of once again, Time requires Time, Justice requires Justice, etc. We can also exhaust a Time unit, or all right, we'll just go with the Time unit because I'm going off of the article. Time influence. So let me start from the beginning. Etchings are a new cycle of new market cards in Argent Depths. For only 1 power, we can get a Time sigil out of our deck, but once we have some Time influence, i.e. 4, we can also exhaust a Time unit and grab a Time card from our market. And regardless, we're still drawing that Time sigil, which we can use as the fodder to swap for whichever juicy card we pull from our market. Nick, break it down for us, buddy.
These are uncommon, so you're going to see them a lot more frequently in Limited, which is pretty cool because sometimes there's more narrow cards or situational cards that you don't want to put in your main deck, but you can put them now in your market and have a little bit more reliable access to them. I love the fact that these draw you the sigil that you can trade that card out, so there's no inherent card disadvantage, or you don't need to have 2 cards in your hand to go to your market. That is fantastic. And I also love the decision that so while it's easier to have the card that goes to your market, it also requires a unit in play of that color. So all the other market cards previously, you could just swap out no problems. It didn't matter what you had in play. It didn't matter, anything else. But this takes a little bit of extra work to go to the market between the influence and requiring a merchant in play. So I think this is a good balance. They're great early, just as seek powers, and then being able to go to the market with them is awesome.
I guess there's really nothing to talk about except that there's occasional synergy with Surge as well. I don't think it really makes a difference, I guess, right? As far as whether you go to the market or not. I guess it's just battlefield dependent. If you obviously get more value from playing the sigil, you probably do that. If not, you'll just swap it to the market. So not much to say there. Alex, do you have anything to add about etchings?
I think they're really well designed, and I like the uncommon access to markets. I like that a lot. Cool.
Yeah, much like what Nick said, niche cards like, for example, Ensnare or Ruin gain a lot more value because they're pretty low power overall, but when they're good, they're great. And so you could easily, instead of using a deck slot, you can slap those in your market and be able to grab them when they need to. John, anything to add on etchings?
No, like just uncommon market access. I'm excited to try these out. Like, and I think the restrictions on them are appropriate. Like, it's that time when you play them, before you can play the sigil you get is when you have to have the influence already. So it's like you have to already be pretty heavy in that faction, i.e., be your very much main color or late in the game, and then have the unit in play. Like, I think the costs look pretty appropriate here, and this will make markets a lot better and limited. Like, they were pretty rough in these recent formats just because of the whole cost restriction, and I think just the color only being the restriction on these opens up your markets to just kind of being a lot more impactful in more situations. So I'm very excited to try these out, and they are in the preview this week.
Nice. All right. The last thing is, it's gonna be interesting whether we decide to allow those in the next peasant tournament or not. It's gonna be interesting. I've already had some people go one way or another on them. I'm like, I'm gonna take Direwolf's approach and just kind of wait and see how it plays out.
I mean, my gut instinct says for sure allow them, but hey, what do I know?
Yeah. We already have some.
We'll see how they play.
Yeah, no doubt. Okay, going into our next mechanic is Decay. Decay is a new battle skill that means when this deals damage to unit or relic, that card's strength and health or armor are permanently reduced by that much. The example they give is a Brightling. This is a 1/3 wisp for 4 time, flying and decay. If our 1/3 Brightling blocks a 2/2 Cabal Cutthroat, when damage is dealt, Cabal Cutthroat will be reduced down to a 1/1 permanently. Decay damage is quite sticky and works great against some hard cards to deal with. Hard to deal with units. I apologize. If decay damage reduces a unit with revenge to 0 health, then it won't be able to come back. Against exalted units, permanently reducing their size will shrink or even stop an exalted weapon. Of note, I believe it'll still trigger the. Oh no, it doesn't, right? 0/0 weapon, even with the battle skill, it doesn't happen, right? If I remember correctly.
Oh, it does.
It does
normally.
Okay.
This is worded a little interesting. I'm a little confused, not gonna lie.
Here's something. So let's say, for example, I'm sorry, let me finish this real quick. Decay also appears on more than just units. Chemical Rounds is a slow spell for 1 fire. Decay, deal 2 damage. So it will either kill something of 2 health or less, or if it's something, for example, like a 5/5, it will shrink it down to a 3/3. Relic weapons can carry decay, the same thing. So right off the bat, just focusing on let's just touch on Exalted real quick. If you have, for example, a 5/5 with Decay, and it blocks a 3/3 Exalted with the right, it wouldn't. Let's say a 3/3 Exalted with whatever Deadly. It wouldn't give a -2/-2 in Deadly Exalted weapon, would it?
In that case, those two units trade. So
Yeah, but I mean the unit still.
So does the decay still work? I haven't gotten to play with these cards.
Oh yeah, that is a good. Oh, I see what you. Well, no, I'm considering the.
I think
usually
it does. Go ahead,
usually, if something with Exalted goes into negative health and negative power, doesn't it just not put a weapon on something?
No, in my experience, it can be a 0/0. But if that weapon had like let's say your unit is a 2/2 and it got it got Warlock's Brood, right? But it had any battle skills, like those battle skills still transfer.
Sure, but
0/0
you're not
weapon.
going to have to reduce something else. Like you're not going to have to put a -2/-2 weapon on something.
No, like there's no there's no negative stats on weapons. Those are always curses.
It's so funny because we've probably seen this interaction multiple times, but just never thought about it till it's come up now. It's like, huh?
I think the wording here is like they're just they're just not mentioning that a revenge unit can have Exalted.
Yeah.
So right, like I just think it's talking about a vanilla unit that's reduced to 0.
Fair.
Right, like.
Yeah.
And I think when they say even stop an Exalted weapon, again, I think they're talking Exalted weapon with no skills.
Yeah. I think anything with a skill will still happen, which makes makes sense because case in point, we have literally twin barrel that's 0+0/+0 and double damage. So,
right.
Yeah, I think this is great mechanic as far as getting the most value out of all your cards, because typically when you have a lonely 2/2 sitting on the board and you're in the mid to late game where it's just outclassed by every unit, it doesn't really do much. You just hope to eventually chump block with it or exhaust it for needs distillation. But having Decay means that you could essentially do that to where you can chump block their 5/5 or their 6/6 at one point, and now all of a sudden your 4/4, your 5/5 can block it effectively. So I think there's some upside to that. If they have it on a bunch of smaller flyers, or even if we see something like a 1/3 flyer with Decay, now it could block a lot more effectively, or a tower top patrol. That'd be a good thing to have Decay, because you just slowly, it's not an easy or auto attack anymore. So I think there's some added value to it and flexibility to the card. Of course, we know it makes attacking a lot more difficult as well. Or blocking, you have to choose, right? Because maybe you have this 7/7 worm, but do you really want to block their 3/3 with Decay? So I don't know. What do you think, Enrush?
I mean, it's just extra added value, right? Like, let's take the chemical rounds, for example. You can use it early to kill off something small or shrink something bigger in the late game. I think it's a fantastic ability. It's only bonus. I'm curious how in draft it's going to be balanced, because like Brightling, a 1/3 flyer for 4 is not a great rate, but you throw Decay on there and it could be. Obviously, Decay units that are like 1/5s or 1/4s or things with big butts are going to be able to stick around and really stop the ground assault. Not only preventing damage to you, but also shrinking anything that's trying to attack in.
One thing I do want to mention is that, and don't quote me this, I'm not 100% sure, but for example, since a unit with Quick Draw can kill a unit with Deadly before it takes damage back, I want to say, but I could be wrong. Actually, I'm gonna ask you guys. What do you so if you attack with a 3/3 with Quick Draw, right, into their 4/4, do you make it a 1/1 before it cracks back, or do they still or does it still? You know what I mean?
No, it doesn't affect their attack power Decay. It only
it
affects
does.
health. It does?
Yeah.
It affects their attack and health.
Yeah, it hits both.
What?
Yeah, it hits both
Yes.
stats.
Oh my god.
Yeah, so I believe if you have both Quick Draw and Decay, it will shrink their unit before it does damage back.
Yeah, like I feel like that's how it should work, but I'm not 100% sure. Like there's still certain interactions in
I mean,
Eternal.
if that's yeah, if it reduces both stats, then I would say 100% quick draw would happen, and then when it dealt damage, it would be weaker, right? Like
Mhm.
I'd say
That's like
100%.
that seems like a good combo.
And then of note, just anything that creates battle skills, it's going to be added onto it as soon as this. Actually, it's probably added to it now since it's in the game. I would assume anything that gives a random battle skill now has a chance to give something decay or well, maybe not surge because it requires additional wording. But decay is a single power battle skill, so that could be added. Just heads up. I don't know if they have anything in the format that gives random battle skills currently, but I guess with the unseen,
I mean,
the 2-1
yeah,
is
we
still
have
the outcast.
we have plenty of cards in this set that love giving random battle skills,
Yeah.
strangers and unseen, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
I think Cass on stream hit Imbue off of something before it was even spoiled.
Really?
Which yeah.
That's
So like
cool.
I think it was what's the relic that gives the cards you draw random battle skills?
Crown.
Yeah, crown.
Yeah. So he
It's an
hit
expedition.
Imbue off of off of a crown, and then like got to spoil what that ability did, which is why I think Direwolf Digital put the article out about Imbue already, because oh crap, well someone already saw it in game.
Right. Okay, that's what it was then, because somebody said they had announced it was like it was gonna be the article would come out tomorrow, and then like 10 minutes later it was posted, and I was like, what just happened there? That explains it.
That's pretty awesome. And of course,
Very
it would happen to
interesting.
Cassandra. That's great.
Who else would get a crown and draft?
Yeah, no joke. Okay,
Streamer luck.
but that covers all the mechanics for Argent Depths that we know of currently. I mean, that's what, 5 mechanics or 4? 4, right? Decay, Surge, Plunder, and Imbue. That's 4 mechanics plus Revenge. So
And revenge, returning
yeah.
mechanic.
So as of
This
right
looks
now,
like a sweet set.
yeah, this is gonna be a lot of fun. Long time coming, but it's and even not. I think someone posted on the Reddit actually that we're only maybe a week over what the normal gap is in between sets, but I guess because of the quarantine, people have just been playing so much that it feels longer.
Right? Okay, that's totally what it is then.
So
Also, supposedly on mobile, I haven't got to try it yet, but you could swipe left and it A spaces.
Yeah, there's some new way to A space on mobile.
Yeah, I can't wait to try that.
Is that the new nomenclature for us? Is it swipe them? Alex,
Yeah.
swipe them.
Swipe them.
that's it. We coined it here
Swipe
first.
them out.
Coined it here first, ladies and gentlemen. Swipe them out. All right, but that's going to do it for our main topic, which is breaking down the mechanics for the new set. So, of course, we'll go over it very lightly when we start the set reviews, hopefully next week. But yeah, that's the breakdown of it. Overall, I'm super excited for all these mechanics. I think Limited is going to be an absolute madhouse. Like so many decisions, you know, like do you play the power? Do you hold the power? Do you plunder? Do you don't plunder? Do you imbue a decay card, or or do you leave it open? Oh my god, so many things.
This week is going to have a steep learning curve.
Yeah, being top 20 is gonna be tough. Gonna be tough. And apparently, I need to make it if I want the day 2 buy. So it's
just pull out your alt account, chat EJ.
Oh god, that's so tempting, but I absolutely hate I just hate the whole idea of that, to be honest with you.
Just kidding.
Oh man. I don't know. Like it's a consideration. Like I'm sitting at 11 right now. Anywho, whatever.
Draft Holio might make an appearance.
Okay. So that's all the mechanics, which is going to go into our secondary topic, which is one of the other reasons why we have Enrush on the show. Not only is he a fantastic limited player, and we want his intelligence on some of these, but he's actually brought some new spice and life to Eternal in the form of speed runs. That's right. He has been speedrunning Gauntlet and absolutely smashing it to the point, like I alluded to earlier, where he now is the world record holder for the fastest speedrun in Gauntlet, like a champion. And not only once, he did it once, breaking the old record of, I think, 2 years old when I checked the website. I think it was like 2 years old, but then smashed his own record, a week later, something like that, like a champion?
Yeah, about a week later.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and dive right into that. Nick, in your own words, because you actually mentioned earlier in the show that you actually enjoy watching other people speedrun, what is speedrunning?
Speedrunning is exactly what you would think it is. It is taking a game and completing it as fast as you can. That's that's exactly what it is. And so, in the context of Eternal, what I'm doing is trying to get 7 wins in Gauntlet, so from start to beating the boss as fast as I can. That's how we're speed running Eternal.
Okay. So I saw this on the website, but obviously no one put any records in there. But apparently they have you have the ability to speed run the campaigns as well. Has anyone done that? Have you thought about doing that or no?
Uh, I don't know if anyone has ever done that. I have not seen any times or anything. And Bassoon Buffoon actually brought it up to me today because for the time being, I'm unable to speedrun Gauntlet, so I might start speedrunning the campaigns. Um, I it's something that I will probably end up doing. I think that there's some interesting decisions there, tailoring your decks for against certain opponents in the campaigns, or the campaigns where they give you the deck to play with.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm definitely interested in doing that as well.
You
Cool.
talked about having issues with Gauntlet. We'll talk about that in a minute, but I want to stay on track at the moment. So, and I think this is great. One of the cool things about it is one, it gives you another spice of life to Eternal whenever you get bored, or if it's just something you're into. And plus, I found out that there are a lot of people that do not play player versus player. They actually stick to versus the AI. So I think anytime we can appeal to those players as well, I think is absolutely great. What are the rules for your speed runs, i.e., with Gauntlet and stuff? Like when do you start, when do you stop, and all the little intricacies, if you don't mind breaking that down for us.
Sure. So there aren't very many of them, but for Gauntlet speed runs, the rules are: one, you have to be at master's rank because that's when you're facing the best opponents. You only have one loss to give. You take your first loss and you're out. Um, Time starts when you hit the play button in Gauntlet, and time ends when you see the victory screen after beating the final boss.
Okay, and then you still count loading screens and everything. Time does not stop.
Yeah. You still count loading screens in there. Um, for most people, that's not a problem. That's becoming a problem for me right now. But yes, you do. You just from the time you hit play to the time the victory screen shows up on the 7th win. However long that takes you, that is your time.
Okay. Well, you've brought it up twice now, so let's go ahead and Let's go ahead and divert just a little bit. And why exactly are you having issues with the loading screen? Because this is something that I'm sure most people don't know about.
No, so apparently, and I just recently found out about this, is there's like anti-bot measures that Direwolf Digital has in place for Eternal. And what will happen is apparently if you either complete games too fast, or if you've played too many Gauntlet runs, or if from the time a game ends to the time you hit the next play button is too short, um, games just won't load, or your loading time in between games will be longer. And while that's all well and good for Direwolf Digital trying to prevent people from bot farming Gauntlet, that's not great for speedruns. So that's a problem that I'm running into now. I've put in a couple tickets and received some responses from Direwolf Digital. They're looking into it, seeing what they can do, if it's something that they can fix. I don't really know, but that's an issue that I'm coming up with right now.
Okay. Yeah, and like I said, I'm sure that's something that most people probably don't come across, but it's good to know, especially if they are going to get into speedrunning, which I'm not gonna lie, you've kind of sparked my interest, and I'll probably try to do it once or twice. I played around a little bit, and it wasn't even worth trying to record it or time it just yet, but you've caught my interest. So, what got you into speedrunning?
I am not very good at video games, like at all. Platformers, first person shooters, anything. I am absolutely terrible at video games. But I enjoy watching a lot of other people speedrun. So I've watched people speedrun Zelda games, Mario games. I love watching the ADGQ and SD and SGDQ events every single year. They're fantastic events, and I love seeing people speed run these games and different strategies they use, different glitches that happen. And Eternal, being a game that I play, I thought it was something that you could implement there. And honestly, the first time I started doing this, it was just I was searching for content for my stream and just something fun and goofy. I didn't realize it actually existed and that there were rules in place. So I just kind of made it up and just started doing it on a whim on my stream. And it got brought up that no, speedrun.com has an actual leaderboard and this is a thing. So I just ran with it and I've really enjoyed it and it's been a lot of fun. And so I've continued to do it.
Nice. Well, that led me to my next question: is what keeps you speedrunning? So after you, I guess to be a little more specific, once again, we just talked about you got the world record, you took first place, and then you kept doing it and broke it again. What keeps you, and you're still trying to do it, even being round, number one with no visible competition as it is. A couple of people have expressed interest, but no one's posted times that are remotely close to yours. So, what keeps you running?
Couple of different things. One, the desire to keep improving. When you speed run, you can see not only your best times, but when you're speed running and your timer and you're comparing your current run to the next one, you can see those areas where you can get better and when you can do better. So it's that constant drive that I can do better. Oh, I can improve my time here. I can improve upon this world record, and wanting to do that is one of the things that keeps me running. With Eternal specifically, there's a lot of different strategies. I've tried out maybe a dozen different decks in Gauntlet to see which ones are fastest, see which strategies work for completing Gauntlet fast, seeing what different cards I can use to exploit the AI and influence their decisions that are going to be better for me. Like trying to manipulate the AI into doing something. Finding all those little interactions and interacting with the game are also very interesting to me and keeps me coming back and wanting to try new things.
Nice.
I got something for you, Nick.
Yeah.
I heard somebody mention today that the AI might not be properly treating one of the new mechanics. I think it was Decay. So they mentioned that the AI is like treating it like overwhelm, like it might not be fully programmed or like implemented properly or something, or how the AI is just kind of wacky sometimes. Maybe that's just how it's programmed. So I mean, this new set, even this week, you might have some new ways to exploit the AI here this week. I know that's what speedrunning is all about. Like any glitch is fair game, right? In speedrunning.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, there's some categories, especially with larger games, where there's speed runs that include glitches and speed runs that don't include glitches. But with Eternal being the way that it is, I wouldn't see why you wouldn't include glitches or manipulations in there. I have not heard that yet. I'm gonna have to experiment and see what the AI does against some of these new cards.
Yeah, I just heard that right before, like somebody posted in our Discord, right before we started recording. So I haven't looked into it myself. I don't have any of the new cards yet. I know you do, so I'm looking forward to hear what you find on that. I'm glad you mentioned those GDQ things. Those are events on Twitch every year, and they support charity. They're fantastic. I watch those as well. It's like my annual dose of speedrunning.
The first,
it's super cool to see them play games that like I grew up playing, on like normal Nintendo or Super Nintendo, and just watching these people who have mastered these games play them is very nostalgic, and I love it.
That's really cool. And some of the things they're doing, you could really do back in the day, and like just nobody knew about them and things like that. It's really cool.
I remember the first thing that ever hit me was someone beating Super Mario 3 in like 8 minutes or 12 minutes or something like that on YouTube.
Yeah, Mitch Flower Power probably.
And I was like, what? I'm like, that game, I mean, granted, I was adolescent, but still, I was like, that game, I couldn't imagine beating it in a handful of minutes. You know what I mean? Like, are you kidding me? And sure enough, I watched, I was like, holy cow, all right. Like, but yeah, it's super neat to watch.
Some of these guys are on another plane of existence, it seems like.
Oh yeah, between like manipulating the game or frame perfect moves, things where you have a very, very, very small, microsecond of a window to perform some sort of trick that sets you up for another one of these things. And they're unreal. Like I said, they've completely mastered the games that they play.
Yeah, it's really cool.
So speaking of that, like some of these games are consistent for the most part. You're going to come across the same things over and over again. Gauntlet obviously is not that, and Eternal Hard Game in general is not like that because there's a shuffler and you get randomness all the time. How can you high roll the RNG to your favor? Like, do you think things just lined up perfectly for you to get your second world record, or do you think it's a little more consistent just because of the dynamic of it, where you're just trying to get your opponent dead as quickly as possible?
There's definitely a lot more RNG in Eternal and in card games in general than there is with, let's say, something like Super Mario Brothers. So you're absolutely trying to high roll certain opponents. You're trying, you want to face certain Gauntlet decks and not others. You want to face certain bosses and not others. You need your draws to line up. And I think that's part of the fun of it too, especially with Eternals, because every single run is different. It's not real stale. You don't see the same sequence of opponents. You don't see the same opponents at the same spots every single run. And I think that's part of the fun of speedrunning Eternals, because there is so much RNG. And then what are the things that you can do to counteract that RNG, right? Like making your own deck as consistent as possible. Things that you can do to mitigate mulligans. What can you do with your own deck to make it so you're not having to see super intense animations, right?
I was about to say that. That's so funny.
Yeah, like reducing the number of game actions that you take, but still having a fast enough deck and a consistent enough deck to defeat the opponent. Things like Rilgen's Disciple. Like if you've got a Rilgen's Disciple and something else that has more attack, the opponent's going to block not the Rilgen's Disciple. Right? Like, so that's a little bit of a manipulation thing there that can help you consistently beat the opponent. And I think some of the RNG gives you more opportunities to find these things out. If that makes sense.
This is really interesting. This whole concept, like, we mentioned all these other games, and like that's kind of what I normally think of speedrunning. It's like almost all these games I think of have so much more agency in general, like, and less randomness. I mean, there's obviously some randomness in almost every game, but like you mentioned, like Eternal and card games in general are more random than your average game, and it's just so interesting that like the way you're doing all this deck construction and theory crafting, and like it's just so interesting. Like I've never thought about Eternal in this way, really. Like I know some people like it's just all about Gauntlet and already do this kind of stuff, but that's not really been my area of expertise or anything. But this is really piquing my interest because I'm yeah, speedrunning is cool. This is a very cool thing you're doing here. So
I really do like the fact that you even mentioned the animation thing, but like, yep, the animation is too long, taking it out of the deck.
Yeah, just imagine trying to do just echo or invoke the Waystones type business, right? Like
yeah,
that's
like
just
like
not even...
emblems are my favorite example, or crests, because these cards are awesome and they improve consistency and give you more things to do in a game, but it just takes forever to resolve a scout. It takes forever to resolve a decimate, and you just while while these cards will help you finish games and give you more opportunity to finish games, it does slow the game down. So trying to find that balance of, I need a deck and cards that let me finish games, but I also need to be fast. Milos is a great example. I love Milos because it has charge. You can high roll wins, but the animation when you hit a firebomb is so long.
Right? Man, what about, like, you remember, so there's not the new Carvet, but the one from the prior set, the 4/5 lifesteal that makes a cultist, right?
Oh yeah,
Like,
when the voice line just took
they
forever.
nerfed it. They like that used to they used to play both the voice lines simultaneously, but now the game stops. It's like, hold on, we got to hear this voice line. So like the developers have even like nerfed specific cards like to be slower sometimes. That's so funny.
So you don't have to do a card by card breakdown, but what's the deck that you got the world record with? And then of course the important thing, what was the final boss for that Gauntlet run?
So the current world record, I played a Rakano aggro deck. Pretty basic district infantry, Hojin, Rilgan's Disciple, Milos, and Sorry Dervish, Torch, Finest Hour, Elder's Feather, like very like pretty simple Rakano aggro deck. The final boss that I had for that one was double power drops. You can play 2 power in 1 turn, which just speeds the deck up so much. You know, getting to play Hojin on turn 1 and then playing 2 more power drops and Elder's Feathering it and swinging for a crap load of damage. It just lined up perfectly.
Wow.
Do you have a YouTube channel?
I do. Well, I take that back. I do. Don't go to it. Don't look for it. It's awful.
Man,
there's a bunch of junk on there. I don't have any Eternal content. I don't think I've uploaded a video in like 6 years or
That's
something.
That's so funny.
I don't actively use it, so we'll go with no. I don't have one.
A previous guest on the last show literally had the same thing. They're like,
Yeah.
I have a YouTube, just don't go to it. It's old and it stinks. I was like, oh, all right. Well, if you want, and this I'm throwing that out there, you don't even have to answer, but if you want to clip your speed run and send it to me, I'll upload it to YouTube and tag you in it and stuff like that. So
okay.
So it's kind of locked into eternity.
Sure. If you go to my Twitch page under my highlights, I have both the original world record run and then the one where I beat it with Rakano. Both of those are highlighted on my Twitch page. They might be taken down because of copyright with music and whatnot on there. I don't know if they have yet. And then also there is a link to the video on speedruns.com. So if you go to the Eternal Gauntlet speedrun page, there's a little button where you can click and watch the video of the world record run.
Sweet. Cool. That's awesome. Last thing, do you have any tips and or tricks for up and coming speedrunners? Your competition?
No, I love competition for something like this. I think it gives motivation for everyone to do it. It's super fun. It's super casual. Like I don't think anyone's gonna be real upset.
I've seen you when you're doing your speed runs. It doesn't feel casual.
No, I would love if other people got in speedrunning Gauntlet. I think it's just something else to get excited about in the community and to build relationships with each other. I think it would be super awesome. Tips and tricks? Not really. Just experiment. Have fun with it. If your game starts out where you have to mulligan and you're on the draw, just concede. Just start over. That's going to put you behind like 25 seconds, and there's no reason to start a game like that. So like a quarter of your games, you're just going to have to start over from the beginning and reset. So that's a little tip to do. Don't even worry about playing that. Yeah, other than that, like I don't know if there's really any tips and tricks. Just if you're interested in it, download a timer. It's as simple as that. Just play the game and time yourself doing it. It's a lot of fun. I would recommend it.
So I know with the new set dropping, they're going to update all the challenger decks and whatnot. So we're not going to see the same meta, so to speak. But by the end of it, how on point locked on did you have all of the Gauntlet decks? Were you like, oh, okay, it's this deck, this is gonna be a good matchup. Oh no, it's this deck, I'm done, and so on.
Pretty locked on. I wasn't so locked on that because the deck changes based on where you face it within the Gauntlet. Like playing against a shadow deck, I knew that there's a high chance that they have Vara's Favor, so I don't want to lead out with Hojin. I want to play like a Rilgan's Disciple as my 2-drop instead, so it doesn't die to Vara's Favor. Things like that where you can pinpoint it. I would also groan like crazy if I went up against a certain deck, like, oh my gosh, this is the deck that's mono permafrost, and I'm never going to be able to beat them in 5 turns. But I think that's part of the fun of it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, sweet, man. I really do appreciate you coming on the show and talking about it. Like I said, I'm definitely going to try to give you a little bit of competition. I don't know if I will be worth it or not, but I have a couple of things in mind, and it's funny. I'm not going to lie. So a little bit of insight back when I was still learning the game, and, you know, I wanted to try to farm gold off of Gauntlet. I was brewing Gauntlet decks, but I went the complete opposite direction that I'm at now, and it was so naive of me. It was so funny. But I tried to go for like inevitability. So I built these super defensive decks that just made sure I can make sure I never lost to any of the different Gauntlet decks. And then I had my finishers. I don't even remember what my finisher was, but it was like, you know, I kept all the flying silencers, all the flying lifesteal. It was like a Combre deck. So I made sure I couldn't die to flyers. I couldn't die to the aggressive deck. And I just locked up the board. And then I was like, cool, here's my like huge flyer bomb or unblockable unit or whatever. And that's how I'd win. And oh God, it was so, I was like, what was I ever doing? Once I made the switch to like Argent Port and stuff like that, I was like, why was I ever doing this? So yeah,
no, you won't finish a run in 12 minutes playing with that strategy.
Oh yeah, for sure. And then obviously just that was the flip side to it, right? Even if I guaranteed my wins in Gauntlet, it still was horrible time wise. So it wasn't efficient anyways. But yeah, sweet, man. I really do. I like I said, you caught the bug, and obviously like even John that has zero interest in any AI stuff is kind of intrigued. So I think you definitely
this is not actually versus AI, it's versus Nick.
Fair. Good point.
So
oh yeah. You're not speedrunning against the AI, you're speedrunning against other people who are also speedrunning.
So that's up my alley.
Yeah, so who knows? We might actually maybe we'll do that, like a little charity stream where it's you, me, and Alex all battling each other for the speed run or whatever. That'd be kind of cool. I mean, we could bring Nick in as the ringer, but like, hey, look, we're all at 18 minutes. All right, Nick, go ahead. And he like smashes like, yeah, I did in 13 with your own deck.
Well, that's something that speedrunners do. I don't know how you would set it up in Eternal. Maybe, first to finish X amount of Gauntlet runs, something like that. But where they'll do races, right? Like speedrunning races where you'll get 4 people playing the same Mario game at the same time. And first one to beat it wins,
Mm-hmm.
That'd be really awesome to do that for a charity event or a 24-hour stream or something like that, where you have these Gauntlet speedrun races. I think that would be super cool.
Maybe for Jedi's 24-hour partner celebration stream, hopefully, fingers crossed, knock on wood.
Oh God, like I appreciate the partner support, but you said
Twitch.
You said 24-hour stream. I'm just like, oh God.
I just casually slipped out of there. Yeah. Hopefully you wouldn't notice.
I mean, when I hurt my knee, I did a couple of 6 and 8 hour streams, and oh man, I felt it. I was like, why do I feel exhausted? And I'm like, oh, we're going on hour 7. The one thing about getting partner though, I will say, is that you get that option to squad stream or whatever, so you can have 2 streams on the same screen or whatever. So that would be cool.
Yeah, it would be like a way to do it kind of built in. That'd be cool.
Yeah, exactly. We just split screen it. I mean, there's other ways to do it. Obviously, we could share a screen in Discord or whatever, but it would still be neat. Maybe I could do that with you, Nick. We split screen on mine and be like, all right, here's where Nick's at. He's on his 3rd opponent. I'm still trying to start my 2nd opening hand. But all right, let's go ahead and get moving. We're going up on time, and I want to try to keep only our set reviews up on the 3, 4, 5 hour mark. So that's going to do it for our main topics. Once again, thank you so much for coming on here and sharing that with us, Nick. This is going to lead us into our What's the Play. And this one is actually a little more puzzly. I don't know how many of you guys were watching this stream, so it might have been spoiled already. This was a very interesting. Oh, I keep forgetting that I opened the. Anywho, so this is one heck of a board state. I'm going to give you guys all the information and see if you can figure out the puzzle. It did come to mind, but I will admit this was actually, I think the correct play here is actually the play I didn't do. Maybe not. I don't know. I don't want to give you guys too much information. We could talk about it in a minute. But I do think this is actually kind of a worthy what's the play. Okay, so long story, this is very late in the game. Both our decks are sub 10 cards left. That's how late in the game is. So I think influence is kind of non-important because I have 3 of all 5 factions minimum. We're primarily Xenon. Our opponent is everything but Justice. And then the board state is we're both at 20 life, 20 and 20. Our opponent has 2 cards in hand. We have 4 cards in hand, what I'll break down. Our cards are Teleport, which bounces a unit, both opponents and our own, back to their hand. Time Sigil, Shadow Sigil, and a Rectifier. Our opponent's board consists of a 2/2 Overwhelm. I'm not going to bother with names because it's an elaborate board state, so I'll break it down for you guys. 2/2 Overwhelm, a 2/2 gain 1 life whenever you play a spell. The voice of the speaker, where whenever you draw a sigil, it gets echo. It's a 2/1. A 1/1 Fellrock Infiltrator, which was at either 3 or 4 triggers of mastery, so 4 or 5 or 3 of 5. 3/3 Sharpshooter, and then the 2/1 Two-Face, which is the deadly mill of the top 2 cards, Corrupt 2. We have a 0/1 Herbalist, a 0/2 Mag Stranger, a 10/2 Berserk Corrupted Umbran, a -1/3 Flying Curator, which is flying, enter a summon silence unit, a 3/5 Mass Stalker, and then a 2/2 Overwhelm Unfamiliar Interloper. Let's start off with you, Nick. You're our guest. What's the play here?
I don't know.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I do apologize. One more thing of context. I do apologize. Our opponent windvoked a dumping ground, which is that's where we have the -1s to our unit. You play it, you can sacrifice a unit to give a -1, -0 to, or no, I'm sorry, -1, -1, -2, -1, sorry, -2, -1 to all the units on your opponent's board. That Pack Conjuring is the reason why our Corrupted Umbran is a 10/2. And then you can pay 10 to bring 2 units from your void into play, and they gain charge, and you sacrifice them at the end of the turn. And they have 2 7/7 Sandworms in their void. Okay.
So the 3/5 in play is the one that gains the abilities whenever one of your opponent's units dies, correct?
Correct.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't know what you do here other than just like swing with the Corrupted Umbran, but they're just going to trade it off with a random 2/2, so that feels bad. Attacking with anything else feels bad as well because they have like the 3/3 that can just eat your 2/2 Interloper. I think what your path to victory is hope that their units with abilities die, especially the unblockable one, and maybe your 3/5 can start getting in for damage. This just does not look like a good situation at all.
Mm-hmm. Because you mentioned the Corrupted Umbran, we do have a Blackguard Sidearm, which is the +2/+1 and quick draw weapon in our deck.
It's got the quick draw on it?
No, it doesn't. It's just in our deck.
Oh, okay.
Because that was one of the things we had in our mind too. Was like, yeah, if we just draw the Blackguard Sidearm, we could just start smashing for a ton.
My first inclination is to run this Rectifier out, silence their unblockable unit, and just hope to stall, but like even that's not a great plan. I don't know. I feel like it's just like play Rectifier, silence something, and pass. There's just like no real good attacks. There's not a whole lot going on. It looks pretty grim for us.
Okay. Yeah. And that's where we felt, honestly, in that point in the game. John, were you watching this stream or no?
I don't.
Okay.
I don't remember seeing this dumping grounds.
Okay, cool, perfect. So what would you do here?
Yeah. I mean, so the one thing that's standing out to me is just the deeper red glow of your opponent's library or deck here over yours. So I'm thinking we have mill deck now.
Yeah.
So I'm basically thinking pass the turn, hold up teleport. You know, if the opponent does something, you know, very scary with like some combination of cards remaining, like dumping grounds, and then tries to do like a combat trick, like some, you know, double damage, like I don't know, like how long they've been holding these cards or anything. Like they probably aren't. They're probably like sigils. I mean, if they just did an echo card and didn't play anything, then they're definitely 2 sigils. But yeah, no, I'm thinking just pass the turn. Just teleport will save you from any weird stuff happening out of nowhere. And then if they play something that you know is a extremely threatening unit that'll kill you in the remaining turns that the opponent has here, which doesn't look like many, some like insane flyer or something that maybe had some random guys, I don't know, then you have rectifier still in your hand. So I think we're kind of chilling here. And then if they, you know, if they start getting crazy with attacks and we've already burned our teleport, we do have a 10-2 lifesteal, so we have like, you know, 10 points of life gain on the board here too. Like I'm feeling pretty safe to just hang out and let the opponent mill themselves here.
Okay. So you wouldn't even play
draw something. No, I wouldn't even play rectifier.
Okay.
I don't think so.
Okay.
No, because the 1/1 doesn't have mastery right here.
Yeah.
It's clearly on, you know, at least 3 or less. Like I'd at least wait a turn on the rectifier just in case. You know, give them a chance to play something we care about more than a 1/1 unblockable. Because even if that draw, well, okay, I take that back. You are that thing mills you quite a bit, right? When the mastery goes off.
Yeah. It
right?
looks at the top 5, pick 1, and then the other 4 get discarded.
Yeah, maybe you do just. Maybe it is just worth rectifying that this turn then in that case. And then if they do play some crazy flyer that will end up killing you, you'll have to just suicide attack your, you know, 10-2 or something if it comes to that. But I still think we just win the mill game here.
Okay.
Basically.
Yeah, and honestly, if I can give you that much information. We did feel like we were on the mill plan at this point because it would have changed if we drew the Blackguard sidearm. We were trying to dig for that. But at this point with, the red glow on the decks means that could alter, because they have no real way of killing us at this point unless bearing what's in their hand. We do know their hand is gas because they've had the dumping ground for a couple of turns by this point, and they're missing their 10th power to activate it. So we're almost positive that their hand is gas and not a sigil. Sending it to you, Alex. What do you think?
How far are you on mastery on the 3/5?
Not even close. We had another one in play that was closer. It's been on defense. We had no good attacks with it.
Okay, yeah, I was like, if you had if that was one trigger away from going off, I would maybe attack with that guy, get squirrely with it.
He just blocks with the deadly though.
Yeah, I mean you'd teleport that first, and then you'd have to triple block, and I don't know, but I would just sit back. What everyone's saying here, you just wait out, have your opponent run out of cards after you after you rectify the 1/1, so that doesn't get it through anymore, and then just sit back. That's the path to victory right here, I think.
Okay, so this is actually really interesting because I think you guys are all right, and at the same time you guys are all wrong. And here's what and I'm going to throw you out what happened and what I think, and then you guys tell me if you would have played around that or not. So we identified that because we've seen so much of our deck, we knew what was left for the most part. And the only road to victory we saw by this point, because this was very much a recursion deck, it was more about getting our value back from our void and kind of killing them that way. We didn't really have a finisher. And so our game plan to win was to get the Blackguard sidearm and swing in there, and they just have to keep jump blocking. We gain a ton of life. Once we identified they were low on cards, we went to the mill plan. We were very close. I think we were up by 2 or 3 cards on them. So what? And it's funny because I did mention this. I did mention somehow silencing the Two-Face just to get the deadly off the board, as well as avoiding the potential mill value, because obviously teleporting it just means they get to mill us again, and then we're either tied or they're ahead on the deck race. But much like what John said, we had to silence the Fell Rock Infiltrator so they didn't mill us and get a card out of our deck. So I think the actual correct play here is to play Rectifier. And I'm sorry, I digress a little bit. Before I get to that, we misassessed or incorrectly assessed the threat, and I put too much value on the double sandworms in their void, and was worried about the sandworms coupled with some kind of spell or something to get in lethal, which at this point we're at 20. We have a ton of chump blockers, so that was misassessment, plus the fact that they would have needed to spend all their power to play those sandworms to do the dumping ground thing. So the cards in their hand were essentially irrelevant that turn. And so that's why we were keeping up the teleport, to avoid some kind of blowout turn. And that's why we valued the teleport so highly, because our deck didn't have interaction, which once again I think was incorrect, because we misinterpreted the threat assessment. Our threat assessment was incorrect. Here our point was to keep our library higher, at a higher total than theirs. So I think the correct play here would have been to play Rectifier, silence the Fell Rock Infiltrator, bounce it, or the Corrupted or the Curator to get the curse off of it. Oh no, it's not curse, it's permanent. And then play it to silence the Two-Face to just be the insurance. Because what ended up happening, and I don't think it was this turn, I think it was a couple of turns later, they actually Varus favored their own Two-Face to get the mill, right? I think we were ahead by 3 cards. I think we were ahead by 3, and that's why we thought the corrupted off of the Two-Face was still okay. So they Vard favored the corrupted, killed it, and then they correctly identified that when they used the activation from the dumping ground, they brought back the Two-Face to mill us again, and that put them ahead by a card, and we ended up losing this game by getting milled out. So, and then of course, in great Jedi fashion, the Blackguard Sidearm was literally the last card in our deck. So was that...
So you had to double Rectifier there to stay alive. Yeah, no, I didn't even think about doing that.
Like, that's what are the chances, that he's able to kill his own guy there without just trying to suicide attack?
Well, I mean, there's Devour in the format.
True.
So it's not completely unheard of.
Devour mills him the same amount, so that wouldn't matter.
Fair. So I don't know. Granted, I mean, the way it played out, that was. But the thing is, I even say it because I mentioned it. I was like, we have to be careful about that Two-Face because of the mill, because it was close. We were literally...
Yeah, I wouldn't be trying to trade with it, so he gets the option to mill. I'd be like jumping it, and if it comes to it, maybe a turn or two later, man, he's gonna keep attacking me with this thing. But I didn't, I'm not actually sure what these deck totals are here, right? So that's kind of throwing off the decision a little bit.
At
but
this point, I think it was like 9-6 or something like that. It wasn't.
Yeah, that's really sketchy, right? Having a way to mill you on board, and then if it's like that low, you're really not worried about getting attacked, right? This game is just straight up going to be who runs out of cards.
Yeah, so I think that's the problem, is that I valued the teleport as a combat trick when I really shouldn't have. I don't know, would that have been on your radar at all, Nick?
Not particularly. I'm probably because they invoked, I don't know if you can pinpoint them on really any cards in their hand. You're so late game.
Oh, it was the dumping.
You know their business. I think using the teleport or planning on the teleport just being like an insurance policy to bounce, some attacker or something like that is probably where I would have been as well.
Okay, cool. Yeah, it was just super interesting. I thought we were good. I did make an earlier misplay at the time, and I only say that, I don't know, because it was right when we were considering milling them, and I ended up we played Machinations, and because we were on the game plan of drawing our sidearm, We machinated the Eager Offering, right, which is the 3 cost. We actually brought it back for 1 because we had a discount off the Mag Stranger to draw 2 cards to go deeper in our deck because we were digging for the Mag Stranger or the Blackguard Sidearm. But obviously, the way the game turned out, if we had not done that, we would have, even if they did what they did with the Two-Face, we still would have been up on cards. So that could be considered a misplay, but I think at the time it was the correct play because of the fact that we still had, we were above 10 cards. And I was like, well, if we draw the Blackguard Sidearm, that's our road to victory. So that was just something to think about. But yeah, I thought it was pretty interesting. It was a heads up play on our opponent, right? Like, I mean, they just happened to have the favor. So
Yeah.
it was a little rough, honestly. But
That's a pretty. I mean, that's a edgy case there. I don't know if I would have like snapped off that double silence there. Like, I mean, I knew I could. I just like, I in my mind, I'm just like, just making sure that Two-Face doesn't die over these next few turns or whatever.
Yep.
But yeah, the opponent killing it himself. That's
okay.
Yeah,
it was a fun one. A little frustrating of a game because I thought we were on the back foot most of the game because they totally did like the Wormstone and then Inner Peace Ascendant back the Waystone or the Wormstone, do it again. So, okay. Real quick, that's gonna do it for our What's the Play. Going into 2 things for our Constructed Corner. No deck today because of the fact that the format's going to change, so I want to keep you guys up to date. But we are going to talk about a couple of nerfs that happened, a couple of buffs, which honestly I don't really feel, or side buffs, I really don't feel any of them are all that great. It was more one of those things where they're going to buff random cards to see if maybe they see play. Inherently, in most cases, that's been a non-fruitful or fulfilling event, but at least they're trying. Anywho. Nick, let's go to you with this, just because these aren't necessarily the cards that John plays in Constructed, even though they are the ones I play, but you're our guest and, of course, very talented, consistently top 20 in both formats. Nerfs. Toad Pioneer was a 1-2 and is now a 1-1. Everything else on the card is still the same. Thunder of Wings is now a 4-1 dragon with flying instead of a 4-2 dragon with flying. Phoenix Stone is now a 1 fire cost and 3 to activate instead of 2 fire cost and 2 to activate. And Pyre Elemental is a 6 cost 4/3 with charge. And then if you played a spell this turn, it would get its cost reduced by 4, being a 2 cost. And now it gets its cost reduced by 3, being a 3 cost should you play a spell. And those were all the nerfs at the moment. Of course, they left Jack alone, which I think is still fine. We already know, we've talked about on the show, it's the card you have to pay to play. People pay money to play it. The last thing they want is a card that they paid money to play all of a sudden not be worth it. So I doubt we're going to see a nerf to Jack anytime soon. Plus, in the last ECQ, they've proven that Jack can be beaten. Anyways, I digress. Nick, what do you think about these nerfs?
They really just don't like fire aggro decks. This is like the second balance change in a row where they just nerfed them for Expedition. I think the market ones, the Phoenix Stone and Pyre Elemental, are the actual bigger nerfs than Total Pioneer or Thunder of Wings. I don't know if Salvo is going to be in the next Expedition format. We don't know that, but it still matters for Throne. I'm okay with these nerfs. Total Pioneer was one of the better cards. Thunder Wings kind of surprised me, but I understand it, especially when they explained how they didn't want to nerf the campaign cards. Both of these cards have a little bit of extra counterplay against them now, right? Like Vara's Favor kills the Dragon and the Pioneer. Blight Moth can kill them. You can't attack your 1/2 or your 4/1 into a Mother anymore, the 1/4 flyer. So their 1/2s can now trade and eat these units. So there's a lot more counterplay against them, but their functionality still remains the same. So I like these nerfs. I think they're well suited.
See, and I'm normally kind of with you on that. I'm all for balancing and things like that, but I actually I think the void, I don't know, like they're definitely just giving the hose to mono fire or any kind of fire deck again for the most part. But I actually am a little perturbed about the X1 nerf to Wings and Pioneer, and those are already such volatile cards, right? They're very powerful, but they're very volatile, honestly. And I don't like how they've made Blightmoth just even better. Blightmoth is already really good and completely hoses aggro decks to the point where if your opponent plays 2 of them on you, you're very hard pressed to win that game. And the fact that they just made it even better, I don't know. You got to give aggro some kind of tools to pull victories out. You know what I mean? I don't know. That's my take on it.
But there was already, so like the last ECQ, there was a lot of aggro, mainly Praxis aggro, but there wasn't a lot of Blightmoths. Like I don't think Blightmoth was nearly as good against the Praxis decks as what you might be thinking, and now it actually is. So it might spark more shadow decks to be played in Expedition.
Got you. Yeah, and it could also be because of the form of aggro, because I was trying to avoid the Praxis aggro, so I play like Mono Fire and I play Stone Scar aggro, which has a lot of gunslingers, and then I play Combre, which X1s are, I don't know, I'm over X1s. Even in every Combre deck I play, I take out every single X1, no matter how good it is, because I'm like, it's just gonna die to Vara's Favor, Blightmoth, and Condemn. So
Yeah, this is like a huge side buff to the deck I've been playing. Like I'm running Blightmoths, Vara's Favor, Condemns, and Display of Menace.
Yeah.
So it's just -1 and pings for days. So I'm selfishly happy about these nerfs.
fair. I mean, it's literally just that though, because both of them having 2 health, right? It doesn't care. Hailstorm doesn't care about that. They all still die to Salvo, which is the big boogeyman essentially for the format, right? That every deck that runs fire just plays Salvo because you get a removal spell plus a market enabler. But yeah, like I said, it could just be a little bit of bias there, just because I play these cards, and even going against them, I felt the same way, because I've played mid range as well, and there was no difference. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know. I think the Toda and the Thunder nerfs here might be a little. I mean, I don't know how much play these cards are gonna see going forward because of that. I don't know. Like I think the Phoenix Stone and the Pyro Elemental, like those are just like only in those markets. So like that's a really obvious, attack nerf on those cards there.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, these other ones are, I don't know. That's a little harder to evaluate.
It's actually it's actually quite interesting as well that for a fact it's only targeting that deck, because Pyro Elemental Salvo was in the Skycrag aggro, like the Yetis, and I'm pretty sure a variant that
those are in every Salvo market, basically.
Yeah, and it wasn't until recently where they felt like they had to nerf it, because I've been running that in my Yetis deck for a hot minute, and it's never been on the radar as far as I know. So I don't know.
Yeah,
Nick, you play Skycrag aggro as well. What do you think?
Yeah. Yeah, both of these are nerfs to those decks. I'm a little disappointed that Pyro Elemental isn't going to be able to be gotten with Salvo for my Gauntlet decks anymore. That's kind of annoying, but it's
Yeah.
fine. I'm looking at Phoenix Stone as maybe a side buff / nerf, because like,
yeah, it's a nerf just in those markets, but as a card, like maybe
right,
it's main
like
deckable now.
Yeah, absolutely, a 1-cost relic. So there's like relic synergies that you can have there. That's really efficient for aggro decks. That card might be main deck playable now for aggro or mid range decks. It's very difficult to deal with because non-fast removal can't kill it unless it kills relics. So I'm liking the Phoenix Stone there at 1 cost.
Yeah, that's interesting.
You know what though? The flip side though is the fact that because it's 3 to activate, it actually does change their curve. Because most of these aggro decks could top off at 4, for the most part. So you can still activate Jack, you can still activate Phoenix Stone and play a 2-drop or leave up a Seer. Now you actually have to go up to your 5th power because of the fact that if you want to do anything else on the turn except salvo or play an Oni Patrol and Oni Ronin, you have to have that 5th power to be able to activate the stone. So I think it goes either way.
Yeah.
Okay, man, honestly, I don't want to go into these side buffs all too much because most of these cards are kind of fringe playable. The one that I'm a little disappointed about, not that I was running in every deck, but it was one of my first rares that I used to love, and I don't know, I feel like it's a nerf instead of a side buff, is Roland's Honor Guard. It used to be a 7 green flying lifesteal for 6/6 flying lifesteal for 7 green, and now it's 6 green for, and it's a 5/5. I don't know. I think a 6/6 held its own versus a 5/5 just trades with a lot more things. But I mean, most honestly, it was just dying to removal. But whatever. Shield of the Line was a limited card. I don't think it saw constructed play. It was 4 to activate. Now it's 3. Whatever. Idol Ixtal's Pendant is another play. Let's see. What was the other? There we go. Ixtal, Champion of Grodoff.
Yeah.
This one I think was a pretty good buff, and it may see play, maybe not. Rectifier is starting to see
it's
less.
worth looking at least.
Yeah, Rectifier is not as predominant in constructed now as it was a little bit ago. So which is interesting. I'm really surprised they made this thing a 0/0 instead of a 1/1. But you know, hey, whatever. Ixtal Champion is a 0/0 giant for 6. It was 6 triple time. Now it is 5 with a single time influence, and it reads plus attack plus health equal to your maximum power. When an enemy unit dies, play a random power card from your deck. So yeah, I think this guy just has some application now. It's just significantly easier to play, and it comes down a little bit better on curve or whatnot with some upside. I don't know. Do you have anything on this, Nick?
Northwind Herald Suite is a 4/2. Like, I think that's a pretty big buff to it. If you're some sort of an aggressive deck that wants to slap that down for free, I really like that buff. Also, Snowdrift Delver, honestly, kind of intrigues me. Things not dying to salvo is a big deal. The Bold Adventure 2/3 stat line is awesome, and the fact that this says Renown draw a card, I don't care what it's drawing, it's still draw a card. You can feed it to discard things. You know, maybe you get something useful. That card really intrigues me.
Yeah, just because you touched on it, they did buff all the heralds, which are all the wind elementals. They buffed them in some way, and then of course they buffed the avatar that they create. But I've yet to even see that in casual personally. But yeah, I do agree that making the 2/2 a 2/3 is quite powerful across the board. And then Noxious Wivark was something that initially we thought I was a little higher on because I thought the board wipe aspect of it was kind of good, but it actually was just too slow at 7. And I think they identified that, so they dropped it down to a 6 Shadow. So it is currently now a 6 Shadow 3/4 Nightmare Dragon with flying. Summon each unit without flying gets a -3/-3. I don't know if this is going to be enough to make it playable. I don't think so still. It was more of a limited card that I was looking at. But that's something to consider.
No, this is actually like pretty significant for this card. Like, if you remember a few Expedition ECQs ago, the one that Virgin Mary won, like this as something that Stone Scar Dragon Toolbox was actually kind of looking pretty good. And when you get it with, Dragon Forge, it reduces the cost, so it's 5 now. That when you can do kind of like a pseudo board wipe, so that actually makes this like a great piece in that Dragon Toolbox against aggro in some ways. So like I think that's actually a pretty decent buff here. I also like this Fencing Master buff. That's a card I've never wanted to play, I don't think. But man, it 2/3 for 3 is like
serviceable,
a little more exciting. And then there's gonna be so much stunning going on, right? With this new mechanic. It's like a double buff for this guy just because of the format.
Is it? Yeah, I guess we'd be hard pressed to believe they wouldn't put this in the format. That makes sense,
right? With this buff, I imagine this will be in the draft. That's just speculation, but That could be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, they're all super medium. Like for example, Mindsod the Peerless. I've never seen this guy play, and I don't think making it a little cheaper to cost is any better either. But whatever, I digress. Of note, because there are Minotaur lovers out there, I actually have seen both these cards in decks. Harga Armory Warden is everything's the same on her. That's the 0/8 that it fights and Minotaurs get mastery, etc., etc. They dropped it to 2 costs instead of 3. And then Armory Dragonbane, they kept the influence requirements but dropped it from 6 to 5. So you're getting a 6/6 for 5 at the very least. So once again, I don't want to spend too much time on these. We're already over the 2-hour mark, which once again is fine, but I don't want to push it. So
Skyward Seer's sweet. Sorry, I'm gonna throw that one out there now. 1/3 draw card for 3 is
oh yeah. Sorry,
is kind of a big deal.
Yeah, that card was pretty good and limited. I like taking it, especially when you had like a decent flyer to go get. Sorry, I keep looking at the pictures, realizing the pictures weren't updated. So yeah, 3 cost, 1/3 that tutors. I will note Spark is significantly harder to do than Onslaught, but if you're already kind of some kind of a flyer deck, hopefully you can get in there. So yeah, anything that draws you a card one way or another is always beneficial, and at least the Seer lets you pick what card you draw.
Yep. You could draw 2 cards. You find the Thunder Dragon, or the Hatchling.
The only thing I'll say about that card is like I tried brewing with it in these last couple months, like just occasionally in Expedition or whatever, and like it was available in the primal markets, which is now not, as far as the transport.
Oh yeah, you can't
so that's kind of unlucky
anymore.
Yeah, but yeah, I digress.
All right, let us know if you got any things that we missed on these nerfs or buffs or whatnot. Definitely hit us up in the Discord or something like that, and I'd love to have a discussion about it. All right, last thing I want to talk about on the show is the event that's going to be coming up. And Nick, I am going to give you your soapbox too, because I thought it was an interesting conversation. So maybe tone down the adrenaline a little bit when you go off on your rant. But other than that, good to go. It is Heroes from the Depths preview event. Plunge into Argent of Vara's darkest dreams in the Heroes from the Depths preview event. Oh, so that's the lore behind this? This is like Vara's dream?
Yeah, apparently, none of this is really happening.
Oh,
apparently.
They're doing that sitcom thing where like they can come up with any storyline and be like, haha, we're only joking.
Yes, they're it's all kind of mystical, so there could end up being some bleed over between realms or whatever, but that is the lore.
Yeah, I'm honestly, in all honesty, I'm okay with that. To be perfectly, as long as we get to see the same characters and they print new cards, I'm fine with that.
Hey, these cards are sweet looking, so I'm down to.
Yeah. If they want to save on some creative expenses and creative work time to not have to create all bunch of new characters, I'm okay with that.
We are not Vorthoses. Unfortunate for the Vorthoses out there.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I like the lore behind cards, but I'm not super stickler about it. So anywho,
right there with you.
All right. Want to win some pack whatever details. All right, let's just cut straight to the details then. I was hoping to here are the details. Enter the Heroes from the Depths preview event with a 2-faction throne deck. At the start of each game, 4 copies of the new hero that matches your 2-faction deck will be added to the top half of your deck. You'll start the game with an influence of both influence of both of your factions. Preview event costs 4,000 gold or 300 gems to enter. Each run continues until you have either 10 wins or 3 losses. Ooh, 10 wins this time. Wow.
Wow, 10.
The event will begin Friday, June 19th at 10 a.m. Mountain Standard Time and end Monday, June 22nd at 4 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. And then it's all the new heroes from this event. So you have the Praxis. It's Praxis, Rakano, Skycrag, Combray, Xenon, Argentport, and Feln are the factions.
We know what the other factions are too, because they're the Imbue ones. Now that they spoiled them, you can still play those other factions in this event and get those other heroes.
Oh, really? Sweet.
Yeah, they're just not showing in this picture.
Oh, okay, my bad.
There's a separate article, but they just came out with the article today, as we.
Oh yeah, I get it. It says right here the remaining 3 heroes from the. Okay, my bad. I take that back. Okay, fair. And then the rewards for the run. I'm not gonna go through all 10. So if you win all 10 rounds, you get 8 packs, 1 premium rare, and 1 premium legendary. If you win 9, you get 8 packs and 2 premium rare. And then if you 0, just straight up wash out, you at least get 3 packs, which 4,000 gold, you're down on packs, but it's 300 gems. So if you pay with gems, you kind of even out for what that's worth. Yep, and then if you get 1 win, you get a pack. So if you get 1 win, you at least break even on gold, and you're ahead on gems. The leaderboard rewards 1 through 10 is 2. Oh, I'm not. Yeah, they're so bad about these leaderboard. Oh, wait a minute.
No. This is okay.
Oh,
this
yeah,
is okay.
Okay, yeah, my bad. 1 through 10, you get 2 gold chests and a premium copy of your hero. So you pretty much, if you bought the preview event, just don't play Argent Port, you'll be fine. 11 through 50, you get 1 gold chest, 1 silver chest, and a copy of your hero. And then 51 and below, 51 to 100, you get gold chest, silver chest, and then just for playing, everyone else gets 2 silver chests. All right, Nick, break it down.
So I want to point this out for the leaderboards. There are 10 leaderboards, actually. There's a leaderboard for every faction. So theoretically, if you're in the 1 to 10 range of every single faction, you could get 20 gold chests and a premium copy of all of the heroes.
Oh.
Right? There's 10 different leaderboards for this.
Okay, got you. I feel the mention.
Yeah, that's
that.
interesting.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, so it's not just one. So you can get a ton of leaderboard prizes in addition to your run rewards, which I think are pretty good because you're going up to 10. You can get a lot of packs with this. I think this event is super, super cool. Getting to play with these new cards before they're actually released in the set. You've got a very high chance of drawing them because all of them are going in the tops of your decks. There's that little line that says at the start of each game, you start the game with an influence of both of your factions. So that creates some really interesting deck building things like you can now play Sand Warrior like on turn 2 instead of turn 3. You can discard your Fell Rock on turn 2 and have it come into play for free, right? So there's like all of these things that are gated by influence that are now much better. So I think it creates some really cool deck building decisions. What gets me is that for this preview event, which is constructed, you want to have the cards in the new set, especially with Katra, like the Vows and all of these new cards that synergize with these heroes. But the only way to get them is to draft. You can't craft them. So you got to spend all of this gold to get these new cards. And then you got to spend all this gold again to play them in constructed. Why can't these cards just be craftable? Right? Like this is a huge, huge gold sink. Like, especially if you want to top the leaderboards for all of the factions. Like you could very, very easily, if you don't have a bunch of draft tickets saved up, you could sink like 80,000 gold this weekend, no problem. Just trying to get the cards for this event and then playing in this event a bunch of times.
Yeah, I'm gonna play. I don't know if I'm gonna go play all the heroes, but I definitely gonna play something. Make a video or two, but maybe not. I don't know. I just finished purchasing the pre-order bundle, so I may just brew a Roland. I'm not 100% sure, but
you could put Rolands in your deck and then put 4 more Rolands in your deck.
Yeah, you could have 8 Rolands in your deck.
Oh my god! Okay, never mind. I'm playing it.
Yeah.
Is that a thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
The other thing they don't say is how many runs count towards your leaderboard. Is it just your first run of a faction? Is it you can play as many runs and then it's just going off of total wins? Is it 3 runs? It doesn't say how many runs count towards the leaderboards.
Oh yeah, that's a very good point.
Yeah, they always say that. That's probably an oversight.
I'm
sure.
You could just tweet them.
It's probably clear. Yeah, I'll bet when the event goes live, it'll probably say in game if it counts.
It's usually 5,
yeah,
right?
It would be all over.
I feel like it's usually 5.
I mean, it's not very consistent, right? Like in some of these events, it's your first run, or it's not. There's not a standard, I don't think.
Yeah, given that this one is up to 10 wins and there's 10 different leaderboards, it wouldn't surprise me if it only counted 1 run or your first run of a faction for the leaderboard. So that wouldn't surprise me if they do
it's
that.
also a gold sink, like you mentioned. So I'd be shocked if they're not encouraging multiple runs on each leaderboard.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah, and plus the way our community works, I'm sure someone will post like a Xenon deck or whatever, take any faction deck, and they're like, yeah, I got 9 out of 9, 9 and 3 4 times with this deck or whatever, and then all of a sudden that's all you see. So,
Cool. Yeah, that'll be kind of, but the way it's set up with the 10, leaderboards and everything, like, I wonder if it would be concentrated like that. That's pretty interesting. This is like a pretty different dynamic than a lot of these things are doing. So it'll at least be interesting.
But see, like me, I want to play this event a ton. I want to lead, top 50 every single one of the faction leaderboards. But I don't know how many games I'm gonna have to play to do that.
Right.
I like it though. Yeah, you sold me on it. I'm definitely thinking I'm gonna play this event. Are you gonna be streaming it?
Practicing with your speed gauntlet runs, right?
Yeah, exactly. We're gonna speed run the Heroes from the Depths preview event.
All the things. We're gonna do all the things. So much content, new set. Oh god, Twitch is gonna be blowing up with everyone coming back too.
Hope so.
Yeah, I hope so for sure. I'm all about more content for Eternal, man. Get this game out there. Lower those queue times. You know what I'm saying?
They've been pretty rough lately. Like in all formats.
All right. Well, I think that's gonna do it though. So, Nick, thank you so much for taking time out of your evening to come back on the show and give us your insight and share. It's been an absolute delight, and I hope you definitely spark another genre in the Eternal community with these speed runs. Like I said, you've sold me on it. Maybe John and I might have to brew to try to give you a little bit of challenge. But thanks, man. Thank you so much for being on the show. Really do appreciate it. Where can people find you at?
People can find me on Twitch at twitch.tv/nroush1. And yeah, that's it. There's links to my Discord there. You can follow me on Twitter at nroush1. I don't tweet a lot, but I usually post on there when I go live, things like that. So mainly on Twitch.
And then one thing, because I just want to keep pushing it as well, I'm going to talk about it anyways, but are you looking to try to get another Discord campaign going and you want to plug it here potentially, or no?
Oh, for D&D?
Yeah.
Not really. I am so bogged down with work right now. Work is absolutely crazy. I have minimal free time, and so I'm not really looking to start anything up there.
All right, fair enough. Sweet. John, anything, brother?
Yeah, come hang out on both these guys' streams. I like hanging out in their Twitches a lot. Let's come and chat it up. Hang out in Jedi's Discord. And then, yeah, I stream on Twitch occasionally, twitch.tv/John Holio.
Alex, where can people find you at, bro?
They can find me hanging out in Discord, Twitch chat. Yeah, playing draft this week. I like the little set mix up before the new set comes out. So looking to have a little bit of fun. New set.
Yep, so you can catch them at twitch.tv/Jedi_EJ every new schedule Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday. Yeah, they're in there hanging out. Sometimes they jump on a Discord call with me and we draft together and stuff. So definitely check them out. And then the Discord link in the show notes down below. I can't stress enough, man. Our Discord gets better every week. More and more people, every chat becomes more and more active. We got people talking about their pets, people talking about other games, people, man, I've worked on 4 sealed pools this week alone where people are not quite sure where they want to be. They copy their deck list, they post it onto the Discord, and people build a deck for them and send it their way, and we can compare and contrast and stuff like that. It's a lot of fun. People can share on good and bad draft decks. We'll help you make your last couple of cuts and all that good stuff. So definitely check it out. Another thing that's kicking off are the co-op drafts, where you can jump on Discord, one of the voice channels, share your screen, and people will help you draft and go through your games if that's something that you want to get into draft but you're kind of nervous about. Check that out. And then, of course, the YouTube, where you can catch the video version of this show and other great content. Just search up EternalJourney at YouTube and bam, you'll find us. That's going to do it, guys. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Really appreciate it. Hope you're excited about the new set and the preview event. I know I am. You can catch us. And, of course, NRoush. Check out his stream. I lurk in there as well. But yeah, until next time, as always, guys, happy gaming.
Bye.
Good luck in your draft queues, everyone.